please.
Oh my god, I wanna.
We're live!
Oh shit, we're live.
Oh, we're live. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No
Oh
time to
shit, we're
talk
live, yes.
No time to talk about Uggo Muggos.
Can I start the hour by reading out loud a very funny Facebook post that I just saw?
Yeah, let's start with funny, and then we'll go to, like, Otha's thing, and then we'll go to me and my Facebook, so... Not
Okay.
my actual Facebook, but go ahead.
So I'm gonna screen share my everything. Wait, is that that's hold on. Yeah, this is I think what I want. Okay, so here is what this fucking woman said. It's just funny to me, because everybody preface. Everybody in SJWville has gone batshit crazy due to the fucking torchlit weekend of running people over in a car, and they and like the fucking the most pansy ass like in their 40s soccer moms are talking about now they're gonna go smash some fash and shit, and it's really funny. And then this woman. And they're planning some sort of alt-right, like actual Identity Europa rally for San Francisco, and so they're all talking about like they're gonna go. I don't know what the fuck they're gonna do, but yeah, they're gonna. So here's this woman, and she says, "No, I haven't watched the videos from the weekend. I'm already black and working part-time retail in a touristy and expensive as fuck area of San Francisco."
That's all of them.
Can we just stop on a phrase for a minute? I'm already black?
I thought that too. I was like,
I'm already black. What the fuck does that mean?
I know. Exactly. What were you before?
Like there's
That
an
was what I
option?
thought.
Are we Rachel Dolezal all of a sudden? What the fuck is going on here?
I'll change the intonation and I'll read it again. Hold on. No, I haven't watched the videos from the weekend. I'm already black and working part-time retail in a touristy and expensive as fuck area of San Francisco. It already takes a good bit of me to get through on the daily. Right now, I can't afford to be that level of heavy-hearted and ragey on top of what's already there because I'm a fat, black, queer woman in America.
Give me a fucking break.
I agree with the queer, but not for the reasons that she wants me to.
Oh,
There's already plenty.
I lived in West Oakland, California for a little bit.
I did too.
One of my roommates was a giant 6.5 foot tall black goth man, and we worked security together at clubs that had almost exclusively Asian gangbangers. You can't talk about this shit and try to be flip about where you come from. It's a fucking melting pot.
Yeah. So years ago, I asked my dad to watch Mississippi Burning with me. I had seen it. I had seen it in class and wanted his take on it. He grew up in Louisiana during a time of segregation and integrated high schools. My parents are older than integration. My mom is older than her right to vote. With this as part of his personal experiences and being around it as it all went down, he responded with, "I don't need to see it. I've lived through it already, and we're still living through it. If watching yet another video will open more minds, then do it. Do it right the fuck now. Don't lament and panic at headlines. See it with your own eyes. Listen, really listen. Understand. Believe, POC, when we tell you this shit has been festering since the dawn of this country. Do the work. Fellow BIPOC, we live this. We carry this all the time. I see you. I love you. I got you." Okay, and then what? Then what? Be mad. Be angry. Be paranoid. It'll be awesome. Be paranoid. Yay.
Do the work, because if I try, I'm going to have a coronary event.
just that whole we're living through it. It's kind of like when I think about when I see some freaking sensitive little fags say like, "Oh, it's act like it's just as bad as it was in the 1950s for us," because there's still sodomy laws on the book, and my husband and I were just thrown in jail the other day for holding hands while walking down the street. I'm like, it's just seeing this acting like it legitimately is the 1940s, 1950s. Sorry, that was
bullshit.
just yeah.
What I think it is I think that you know, just so to give it a little bit of legitimacy and also to fucking fuck it in the ass. It's this two-pronged thing of like, on one hand, they're probably watching a lot of fucking white people on television and on Facebook talk about their vacations and all this other fucking bullshit, and thinking that, oh fuck, I'm not the center of the universe the same way these people are. So they're bitching about not being the center of the fucking universe, is what it comes down to for me.
Well, also, no, what's funny is that black people who are SJWs, who's basically all of them at this point, who live in places like San Francisco, where she lives, they are the fucking center of the universe. They're treated like fucking royalty because it is a majority white place. I mean,
only to a degree, because when I lived there, the Tenderloin was still a fucking thing. The Tenderloin, the Tenderloin was still a real fucking thing.
Yeah,
where people, like, I dragged a scientist from rural Illinois and a guy who's a professional skeptic before that became a YouTube thing, through the Tenderloin, who's from Australia, who had never ever seen an American black experience, and these fuckers are out in the street and stuff. I was fine with it because I grew up in the ghetto, but I look behind me and these fuckers are fucking scared. They're basically shitting their pants. They're like, oh my god. And I was like, oh, I probably should have taken a different route.
Well, in the Tenderloin, I lived in San Francisco for 8 years, and the Tenderloin is a lot more in your face and intense than
it used to be.
Well, it still is pretty. You know, I mean, not everywhere in it. It's being gentrified. I haven't been back in 2 years, but you know, ultimately, like, there's blocks on it where, you know, it's not uncommon to see, you know, a guy pissing or shitting, and then 10 feet later there's some guy going, I want some crack, I need some crack, and then 10 feet later somebody's trying to sell you heroin, and then 10 feet later there's somebody like passed out on his back and you're not sure if he's dead. Like, it's not uncommon.
So I just the thing we said that he's shitting, and then someone right close is like, I need some crack. I'm like, well, there's some crack right there, but you know, have some shit coming in. Sorry, no, I'm going. That was just so wrong.
The dad jokes, people.
I'm so glad like that Boys Town never got that bad. Actually, like, Boys Town is no longer the #1 place for gay people in Chicago because they just don't want to go there anymore. It's very down it, bitch. We're going dancing.
I've only been to Chicago a handful of times, but it was always sort of like there with friends to see certain things and to hang out with people, and then to go to a couple of restaurants and the museums. I'm a huge, like, I love natural history museums, so like the Field Museum's a fucking big destination. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's like it's basically like Chicago is basically eating in museums.
Yeah. Actually, and live shows occasionally, but yeah.
Well, so let's do this Fear and Loathing. Now, this is, if you want to explain what I'm going to be reading.
Part of this is actually from my life, and I figure that you should read it because it was written by a woman. It was written by my wife, who is downstairs sleeping right now. But yeah, this is part of it is actually an experience that happened over the weekend, and the other part of it is her extrapolation on what that might imply for the rest of, I don't know, the foreseeable future. And yeah.
Alrighty. As soon as my computer wants to catch up with itself. I'm fairly sure this computer is about to die a horrible death soon, to be quite honest.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's going on 5 years old at this point.
I mean, I've had mine, my laptop at least for 8, and it's not quite dead.
I've had mine since 2013, but I also replaced the motherboard just recently.
The Kraken one.
There we go. Let me present myself.
There it is.
Oh, God. I didn't know that there was a truck of peace in Barcelona today.
Yes, there was.
Yeah. Can everybody see that? There he is.
Yeah, I can see it.
Minivan of peace. Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
There's a minivan of peace.
Okay. Fear and Loathing in the Heart of America. Stop me if I start roboting. Imagine you're at the bar hanging out with a couple of people you know and getting to know a new acquaintance you just met earlier tonight. The two of you share a wide swath of interests but come from different backgrounds, so you've been alternating between mutual geek outs and challenging and sometimes contentious discussions as the night has worn on and both of you have become rather drunk. You've both expressed in sidebars that you find arguing stimulating and enjoyable, and have exchanged information with the intention of hanging out in the future. As you wind up again, digging into another controversial topic, rather clumsily at this point because it's late and you're both drunk, a young woman interrupts your conversation, accusing you of being racist, and then proceeds to shout down with petty insults your attempts to first get your head around the accusation, and then attempt to explain a nuanced point that has context tracing back hours while feeling understandably defensive. Your significant other, who has been talking to some other people, hears what's happening, comes over and speaks up in your defense, but is immediately dismissed as a brainwashed accessory. Things escalate into incomprehensible drama. At some point, the young woman's smaller friend, also female, steps up to your face, and grabs you by the throat. Gently, but calculatedly. You restrain yourself from breaking her arm, but step to her in turn. Your two companions pull you back, and the moment ends. This is a real thing that happened to my husband and me this past weekend in my little podunk hometown in Minnesota. While I admit they got my goat, in that moment, the incident by itself would have easily dismissed and forgotten, even just a year ago. But in these crazy times, it's left me deeply shaken. My Facebook feed is filling with an increasing mimetic consensus around punching, killing, and/or eradicating Nazis. It started out as mostly people who are already affiliated with groups like Antifa and the IWW, but now it's spreading to friends I see as fairly moderate. As I said in a status update yesterday, yeah, I get that there is a cathartic release involved. This current environment in which Nazis and white supremacists and race realists feel emboldened to demonstrate so publicly horrifies me as much as any reasonable, justice-minded person. Excuse me. But exerting violence against them, except when directly provoked on an individual level, isn't productive. It won't help. It will only make things worse. I know I've told this story 100 times, but I won't stop repeating it until this insanity stops. Last winter, my friend was hunted down by Antifa and punched in the face because they had been led to believe he was a Nazi. Before they caught him, they detained a random guy on the street for half an hour because they thought he was their quarry. They didn't let the guy go until he showed them ID to prove he wasn't the Nazi they sought. This shit is real. So back to the weekend altercation detailed above. What if it had happened in a college town, or in Minneapolis in one of our regular hangouts? What if the bar had been full of progressive-minded folks? How much of a push would it really take for a mob to crop up and beat the shit out of us, or worse? Imagine a small, cute, college-age woman shouting into a crowded bar on the West Bank, "Hey, this guy's a fucking Nazi." You think they'd listen to our protests? Honestly? What could you do if you had no awareness of us up to this point? Would you believe her? Would you gather your faculties and try to get your drunken mind around our attempts to defend ourselves? Would you stand up for us, or would you punch us? Would you hang back and watch and skulk away after the violence began, convincing yourself that we aren't Nazis? We must at least be assholes to have this happening to us. And isn't that justification, really? After all, in these times, we owe it to ourselves and each other to be very, very careful how we are perceived by strangers. They were asking for it. They were loud in public. He took up space. He spoke declaratively. Beat him down. Make him the scapegoat for all your self-righteous anger because he looks like the thing you hate. This is why I'm sorry, someone trying to speak?
No.
Okay. This is why I'm so adamantly against the violent rhetoric. These women decided before they even engaged with us that we were less than human, even though our actual views on the issues of the day probably differ little. My personal politics fall pretty far to the left, but I don't want to see any single political view be given free reins to dictate how our nation is run. When we have a robust culture of open debate, the extremes hold the center in tension. and we are able to govern ourselves in a way that moves towards maximizing freedom and justice. Obviously, we have a lot more work to do in that regard. There are many specific and workable ideas out there willing to be tried. But this continued polarization and increased dismissal or outright demonization of those like myself who advocate for the importance of maintaining the middle ground, not for fence sitting, but for examining ideas and challenging ourselves and refining our positions and getting into each other's shoes to at least intellectually understand why opposing beliefs exist, even when we abhor them, is contrary to everything this country claims to be about. I've always been a stranger, an outsider. I distrust groups of humans, especially when they start forming rigid consensus views. When the people with the rigid consensus views start to advocate violence, things get scary. What makes it even scarier is when those people come from my own side. Where do I go now? A more reactionary person might turn to the alt-right. But it's not my style to trade one rigid ideology based on tenets I mostly agree with for one I despise to its core just for some safety in numbers. So here I sit, more alienated by the day. Even though I hate how anxiety has become currency in this upside-down world we live in, I have to admit I'm fucking scared right now. Scared for my country primarily, but also scared for my safety, for my freedom to live as I please. My chronic underlying fear of being misunderstood is now warping into a legitimate fear for my life. My hope is wearing thin. Rest in peace, USA. It's been real. That is all.
So that was your wife?
Yeah.
Oh, it's really good.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
She's kind of brilliant.
Yeah.
There's big reasons why I'm with her.
Yeah, that was awesome. It's really, really well written. That is about 1,000 times more well written than most of the stuff in the media right now.
Yeah. And, you know, I know some people in some more legitimate media circles, but I was loath to maybe bring it up to them just because it's not on a side. And the people I know who are in the media right now, they're on sides.
Well, they have to be. They'd be fired if they weren't.
Yeah, well, yeah. And I don't want to name drop, so I'm not gonna, but yeah.
I know some of the worst of the worst. I
know some of the worst of the best. Like, I think the worst of the best is kind of how it has to be right now, and that sucks.
Yeah, I know this feminist I went to grade school and middle school with her. Her name's Lindy West. She's one of the worst SJWs. And it's not just like it happened accidentally or something, like she's a total true believer. She's been being paid this whole time a significant amount of money. She used to write for fucking Jezebel, and she writes for The Guardian. And as soon as Hillary Clinton declared her candidacy, she came out in full support. And she's the one who wrote the "Fat People Rise Up, We Can Swing This Election" article.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I know that bitch. Like, she's so fucking terrible. She's a fat white woman who thinks that she's oppressed because she's white, because she's fat. And her husband is mixed race. He's like part Nigerian and part white. So she thinks it's okay to hate white men because her husband is not white. And she just writes all this like vile hatred, and you know, but she knows that it's wrong is the worst part. Like, it's not like she doesn't sort of know better. It's just become her career. Like, I think that there's a part of her that deep down knows that she's a propagandist. But she, unfriended me on Facebook when I beat her in an argument because she can't have that.
I've lost friends over the last 7 years who have been friends in real life for the previous 20 because of politics. Because I will say things like, safety is something you cannot expect in civilization. Just a simple statement like that.
Yeah, or anybody can be racist, and we shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Or as much as I disagree with it, hate speech is still protected speech.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The one that started mine was identity politics or poison. That's the one that started mine. The whole thing that led up to me having to erase my Facebook page.
Oh,
So
wow.
there's someone in the chat named Casey Dennison who says he's from Minneapolis as well.
Oh,
And
he's my friend. Yeah.
yeah, I've been actually involved with Minneapolis far left politics and the punk scene all the way back into the early 1990s. Used to live in punk houses and all that kind of shit. And some of the people I used to live with are involved with fucking Antifa right now. I know it. And my friend, who my wife mentioned in that article, like he got beat up by people we both knew because we both used to live in punk houses. But because he's in a neo-folk group that is Eurocentric, he is considered a Nazi now.
Wait, what is Eurocentric?
So neo-folk music, actually the biggest act in neo-folk music is a gay British guy, and it started in the early 1980s. Their whole thing is about pre-Christian European culture.
Uh-huh.
That's what most of what they sing about is they sing in sort of poetic verses about in not even about things, but like about in ways that think in the paradigm of pre-Christian European culture as it clashes with the now. One of the songs that the guy who's actually kind of started the movement sings is he's a gay guy, and he sings about seducing, and this is a real thing that happened, seducing a Catholic priest in a Paris airport. And about sort of returning.
What's the guy's name?
My friend or the other guy?
The gay guy, because I think I might have heard of him.
The gay guy. It's I'm having a lot of trouble remembering. I've been drinking for about 5 hours. Pardon me. Pardon me.
Ladies and
I'll
gentlemen,
just
he's this
Google-
coherent when he's completely smashed.
Gay.
I'm 260 pounds, so it's very difficult to get me beyond this point.
A neo-folk.
Neo-folk. I'm looking up bands.
Is it Douglas P?
Douglas P is a very familiar name. What's the name of the band, the act that he performs under? I'm trying to think here. Current 93 is part of it, but they're from the United States.
He lives in Australia, this Douglas P guy.
No, this is probably whether or not I don't know. The Swans are really great actually, and I think they cover a lot of genres. I can't.
But they hear Eurocentric, and they think immediately of like those
Death in June is the name of the band. Death in June, and Douglas P is the guy. But Douglas P is originally from Britain.
Okay.
Yeah, Douglas P is the guy who is Death in June, and he started performing probably 1981 or so.
Okay.
And his music, it's really weird because it's like he's a gay guy, he's iconoclastic, he's against Christianity and all this stuff, but he's considered a right-wing Nazi, and it makes no fucking sense. And because my friend, his act has performed with him, and he's met him, and he's got photographs with the guy, he's considered a Nazi by the emergent hardcore left. And this is something that goes back in my scene as far back as 2007. You know, where he like the first time that I came to my like wake up moment, I don't know how many people here are familiar with Karen Strawn, but
I love her.
I love Karen Strawn as well. She was my first thing into YouTube, really. But when you look at when she has a question about like when was your wake up moment for like MGTOW or whatever, I'm not one of those fuckers. I'm not. But my wake up moment that the wake up moment that I had against where I was at politically was that I was sitting in a house as a friend of mine, a different friend of mine, was being accused of rape for a night of cocaine-fueled sex that he had with somebody, where there was literally a group of women sitting in a circle with knitting needles, a literal fucking knitting circle, deciding whether or not he was going to be expelled from all of the different punk spaces.
Yeah.
And me, my friend, another male friend, and 3 women were coming to his defense, including the woman that had sex with him. including the woman that had sex with him. They were deciding on her behalf that she got raped.
Oh, that's crazy.
And this is in Minneapolis. You know, people discount the Midwest, but
Can I ask you how old you are?
me, I'm 41.
Okay.
Freshly
Why does it
41.
feel like the Midwest got stuck in the middle of an idiot sandwich?
Oh, the Midwest is a testing ground. The Midwest is where everything comes to fucking turn into something else and then come back out again. There's a reason why Prince comes from here, as much as I don't like him. You know? There's a reason. There's a reason for all the Replacements, Prince, Babes in Toyland, all this shit. Even Slug, who is a fucking douchebag. I've met the guy in real life several times. Dated one of his girlfriends. Oh, God, it was horrible. But yeah, like all these people come from here because they're digesting the rest of the fucking country. And they're turning into something new, and then it goes back out again.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have Eminem. And actually, I watched Eminem lose a fucking rap battle in 1997 to someone from Minneapolis.
Yeah, we wouldn't have menstrual art.
Oh, dear Lord.
That's our fault, too. Sorry. That's Chicago's fault.
Yeah. No, but Prince,
1971.
but Prince, I'm an old fucker. I'm old. But
I've
especially
been
by
looking
internet
at
standards.
this shit for too long. Someone please help me.
No, you still have yet to put out a great video. You have yet to do it. You have to do the video.
The video, I did one of them. I'm making it a series. Fuck that. There's enough. There's more than enough. There's more than enough for at least 4 videos.
4. My God.
Yes. Please
My
help me.
God.
I'm currently watching an Australian chick knit like the most disgusting scarf ever out of her vag.
Oh, you're watching that one? Oh my God. Okay. Yeah,
Because
I
it's performance art.
I'm sorry. No, I saw that and then they talk about when it's red and I'm just like, nah.
And she's talking about, like, she says it's harder when she's had her period because the wool stretches and it's slippery. And it's like,
I've seen that, yeah.
help me. I'm desensitized now. It doesn't even bother me anymore. It's kind of like
I saw one legitimate discussion on it among some feminist friends, and once they got to clotting, I was like, okay. And I was like, as someone who has studied human sexuality, and part of that was obviously studying, the menstrual cycle and everything. I was still like, okay. If we're talking about knitting and clotting, I really don't feel like these two topics should go together that often.
No, but it doesn't help that the word vaginal knitting sounds like a horrible health condition I don't want.
Vaginal knitting. I'm sorry, honey. We can't have sex anymore. I've got a bad case of vaginal knitting. It just doesn't open. The clam is shut.
Oh,
It's sewn shut. I can't even. I'm lucky that menopause has taken hold because I can't fit. I can't fit anything in there anymore.
Oh God, yuck.
Oh my God.
No, but it's like nudity. I went to art school, so I'm like completely desensitized to nudity because I was always the one that was late for class. So lucky me, I got to sit in front, and that is the most awkward. Because then the model is staring at you. It is the most. I've both been the model, and I would much rather be the model.
No, I've drawn lots of naked people, but I never went to school for it. Like,
No,
I made a career at illustration out of high school, so I didn't have to go through that.
It was only one class, but a lot of naked people. And like the guy was like, dude was like pushing 60. I'm like, why are you doing this? Why? I got the seat that's directly in front of him. The front is the most awkward one.
I mean,
why
come
is your
on.
dick pierced? Why is all these things?
The guy
What is
modeling
happening?
was a 60-year-old with a dick piercing.
Yeah. I didn't expect it either. He didn't look like the kind of guy that would have one. I'm just like,
Maybe he was having a lot of fun.
I said, bro, you're into some shit.
Oh, seriously, like you know what? The more power to anybody who makes it beyond 40 and is still having fun with their dick.
But he made it very awkward for me because he was just staring straight at me, and I am trying to stare anywhere but the dude's face, and I finally look at his face, and he fucking smiled at me. I'm just like, oh.
You're the hotness.
Fuck.
You're gonna be the hotness in the room. Okay.
That was the most awkward class session ever.
Yes, awkward.
Thank you for making it weird, dude.
That should be a hipster T-shirt. Thank you for making it weird.
Straight Sith mail came in at just the right time. He's like, for fuck's sake, vaginal knitting.
Yeah, some of that.
Vaginal knitting.
But yeah, the response to getting into clotting is just like, nope, I'm out. I'm good. Goodbye.
Wrath was talking shit about me looking like somebody. I don't even know what that fucking means.
Oh.
Yeah, it looks like
Like
somebody.
I think he thinks he means like Bam Margera.
Bam? What? No way. I don't look like fucking Bam.
Let me see. Hold up. Not really. No.
No, it doesn't make any sense.
Now the BuzzFeed video, I'm not going to be doing the BuzzFeed video because that horse is so dead. But the one thing that was weird to me was the one chick that was totally fine with the fact that she has a jar full of her own period blood, but got grossed out by spit.
Yeah, the saliva. Yeah, that was.
Did I
tell you that like I knew some Wiccans who made some Menses, not Menses. What's the stuff that's left over after a kid's
Oh,
birth?
placenta. Wait,
Placenta. They made a placenta pizza.
Yeah, you mentioned that before.
Yeah. Oh god, that's just so fucked.
A placenta pizza.
They made a placenta pizza. Some Wiccans I know. I went to their wedding out in the middle of Wisconsin, and it was just.
Was there placenta pizza?
It was no. We didn't have to eat it. It was after she gave birth to their first kid together.
Yeah, no, I know what it's for, but it's like people whose house you should never eat at.
Yeah, no. The one time we had a barbecue there, I brought my own meat. I brought my own sausage and I brought my own beef.
Oh god.
Oh, that's great.
I used to be a Wiccan.
Oh. Really?
I had some of them get mad at me because I brought animal crackers to like an Ostara meetup. Because apparently animal crackers are not vegan according to them, despite the fact that they're fucking crackers.
Oh my god.
Because they're animal shaped, and that counts.
Oh.
I guess it makes sense, but it just.
They're Wiccans, so why can't they get around their head around the idea of fucking talismans? Jesus Christ!
Right.
And they were vegan animal crackers. I was trying to be nice.
These people make no fucking sense.
I was a vegetarian, so I could have dairy, but I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna spend the extra $1 and I'm gonna get the vegan animal crackers from fucking Whole Foods. And then they're getting all pissy because I'm disrespecting the spirit of the animal.
Oh
Fuck
my.
you.
Wait, so they say what? The spirit of the animal is trapped in a cracker?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that how they're made? Like just before they come off the line, they're endowed with an animal spirit. Like, I mean, I'm an ovo-lacto vegetarian myself, so I've met some crazy fucking vegans. So that is just, oh my fucking god, wow, holy shit.
They were legit mad at me.
No bueno.
Like the druidic vegans. I'm just like, you do realize that druids sacrifice people. So
when I first became a non-monogamous dude back in like 2009, I was dating this chick who was from a rural city here in the state, and she moved into basically the ghetto in South Minneapolis to go to college. And I was like, I know this place with really good cookies. It's a Muslim place down the street, and we walk in, and the first thing that we encounter as we're looking through their little like cookie packets that they actually make on site is there is a halal slaughter table right in the middle of the fucking grocery store.
Fuck that.
And this is a girl who grew up on farms, and she couldn't handle what she witnessed.
Yeah, because it's fucking barbaric.
It is barbaric. But you know what? There's this whole thing about like if you eat meat, you got to know where it fucking comes from.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what's one of the things that I will admit pisses me off because, as I said, right now I'm a vegetarian. I have considered going back to meat, but I've decided I'm only going to consume meat that I've hunted. More so because I will admit this: when I first became a vegetarian, I did educate myself on the meat industry. I've never had a problem with people eating meat. If you're gonna eat meat, I come from the country. Everyone fucking eats meat pretty much.
Oh, you talked about your hubby.
Yeah.
He's a hunter.
Yeah, you know, my husband, he eats bison, he eats, you know, he eats all that. But it was funny because I'd have friends that, you know, like my one friend, she'd be sitting there eating a fucking hamburger and say, we'd be having a discussion, and she'd talk about how horrible animal cruelty was and she could never hurt an animal. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, do we want to have a discussion about how that hamburger got into that between those buns right there? Right. Just so I can. So I will admit some of the hypocrisy there.
It's huge. It's huge.
I fully admit I could hunt. I could kill an animal. I'd have no problem.
If the shit went down, I'd go from being an artist to being somebody who murdered animals. That's exactly what would happen. There'd be like a switch. I would just turn from somebody who drew pictures to somebody who used a rifle or whatever I had at my disposal to slit the throat of a fucking deer or whatever the hell else was at my disposal. It's just the way it'd be.
I always make a joke that if push came to shove, I will eat my dog.
I don't think I do that with my cats. I don't think I do that with my cats.
Yeah, I think I could do that.
Sorry, dog. It's between you and me.
For some reason, my
one cat is too scrawny. My other cat, well, I mean, she's plump, but still.
So the Huffington Post released an article saying that
this beefy guy right here.
Hold up, let me screenshot.
Sorry, there's a kitty. Sorry, friend.
This is Beans, and he is a big kitty.
That is a big cat.
Just to keep it in perspective, I have a giant head and a 50-inch chest, and this cat is that big.
So, it's Yvette Falarca, teacher accused of punching. Yeah, a teacher accused of punching neo-Nazis says standing up to fascism isn't a crime, and this is being treated as a good thing. We have the right to defend ourselves, Yvette Falarca told the court.
Autoplay, Prince. You might want to mute it.
What?
There's a video on autoplay. You might want to mute it.
Yeah. A middle school teacher told teacher in Berkeley, California, accused of punching a neo-Nazi during a 2016 protest is arguing that standing up to fascism is not a crime. Yvette Falarca, 47, was arrested last month for her involvement in a June 2016 anti-fascist demonstration held in Sacramento. Falarca, who is a member of an activist group called By Any Means Necessary, BAM, has been charged with felony assault, as well as 2 misdemeanor counts of inciting and participating in a riot, according to KPIX TV. Footage of the demonstration appears to show Falarca repeatedly punching a member of the Traditionalist Worker Party, a white nationalist group described as a front for neo-Nazi sympathizers by ABC 10. So it must be true. The taller man is holding up his hands while trying to get police officers to help. Other protesters dragged
This happened months ago. This happened months and months ago.
Yeah, it happened a long time ago. Other protesters dragged the man to the ground before the police intervened. At her arranged.
Well, it's like a straight Sith Mel asks. No, it's not Moldy Locks. This is somebody who's actually on an organizational level and used to teach middle school in Oakland, California.
Yeah. Well, I mean, plus I've seen her do interviews, and I've seen her like the videos of her freaking out at protests, and I swear to God, I just think of a fucking yapping chihuahua that I want to kick over the fucking like. I mean, oh no, go on. Sorry.
I would have some very bad things could happen to her, and I would have no sympathy.
Flowers either.
At her arraignment last week, Falarca told the court that the charges against her are false and should be dropped.
Wow.
Standing up against fascism and the rise of Nazism and fascism in this country is not a crime, she said. We have the right to defend ourselves. Back in 2016, Falarca told reporters that the goal of the demonstration was to shut down the Nazi scum. They are organizing to attack and kill us, she said at the time, according to Al Shahira. So we have a right to defend ourselves. That is why we have to shut them down by any means necessary. Filarka told the Los Angeles Times back then that her group's protest was a success because it chased away the neo-Nazis and kept them from recruiting new members. Oh yeah, good job with that. You did a great job. Wonderful job with that.
You actually probably did the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Filarka's next scheduled court date is October 4. She is scheduled to teach at her Berkeley Middle School when the students return later this month and cannot be legally fired unless she is convicted of a felony according to the fucking Soros-owned television station. Or maybe it's not.
Soros-owned.
Sorry, it's getting to the point where like just all of this is very, very obviously Soros. Like he is doing it probably on both sides. There's been some like suspicious Craigslist ads that have shown up about trying to hire people to both photograph and attend the rally in Charlottesville. Yep. And the way it's all being spun in the media, like the heinous dishonestness, like how, like that shit was the Huffington Post. An SJW that I know shared it. Actually, he's not even SJW. He's just some Asian guy. And I think that the reason he shared it is because she's Asian, to be perfectly honest. And it's just so dishonest. Everybody knows it. The people who work in media know it. They don't actually, like, a lot of them don't actually think this. They know that they have to say what they say to get paid. And there's so many closet people who are against SJWs but are afraid to say it. And it's a fucking setup. It really is, and it's getting to the point where we have to start calling it what it is. Like we can't just sit around and be afraid.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. But here's
I'm not finished. I'm not finished.
Okay, go ahead.
It's getting to the point where we have to stop being afraid of people calling us conspiracy theorists and start calling it what it is and look for evidence. And
absolutely,
like, you know, because if you it's escalating and it's absurd, and people are pretending that it's not escalating for the reasons that they are. They're like, oh, it's escalating because leftists are so fucking removed from reality. They don't fucking, you know, these regressive leftists, they really think that everybody in red states or everybody in a county over from them is just a bunch of foaming at the mouth racists, and they're the good people, and they have them all blocked on social media, and they won't have an actual discussion with them. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter because they can change the definition of the word racism, and so it doesn't, you know, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. These people are so insulated, and you try to explain to them what's actually happening, and they actually think that there's this like random organic white nationalist movement that's always been there and it's always been here and blah blah blah. No, it's a setup. It is a setup. They're exaggerating things. They're probably paying actors. They're paying protesters. George Soros said in 2012 that he thought that there was going to be a class war, and I think that he instigated it by funding Black Lives Matter. We got to call it for fucking what it is. I'm making a video of two videos.
I'm personally fine with a class war. I'm personally fine with it. I've grown up. What? Go ahead.
Sorry, really quick, guys. I did some quick research on their own page. The Traditionalist Worker Party. They are most definitely a white supremacist group.
Okay. But regardless, I'm making a video called Message to White Nationalists, basically telling them that a lot of them are probably being played and being, you know, this is like a setup, and they need to like get real about who wants them to be doing this and why. And I'm also making a video called The Case for Conspiracy Theories, in which I, you know, highlight some details, because it's so fucked up. Like, this stuff is not happening organically, and you say it has to do with George Soros, and people are like,
here's the thing. I think the George Soros thing is a little bit overestimated, just a little bit. And this is because I was actually involved with far left politics all the way back to 1994. And the thing I experienced being involved with these political action stuff, like going to protests, like all this sort of shit. I was there protesting the release of GMO technology to large food corporations and to Monsanto from the University of Minnesota, who was the leading cutting edge, bleeding edge fucking assholes when it came to genetically modified foods and genetically modified organisms that held patents, right? And that's the thing that worries me the most, is the holding of patents on a fucking organism. But it's not this like, oh, it's unsafe innately or something. No, it's the greed. It's the graft. It's the idea that somebody's going to make it illegal for somebody to organic farm just a few hectares over. That is fucked up. But getting off. Oh, so like, I'm involved with far left politics for a really fucking long time, all the way up until 2011. And the thing I saw was never anything that was any direct funding. In fact, everything we did was a fucking struggle to meet any sort of financial goal. Anything that we wanted to do was a fucking struggle.
Yeah, well, it's
there
not
was no
with everybody, and he is.
It's not. No, don't dismiss me here. Don't dismiss me here. And as you weren't finished, I'm not finished. I think George Soros is probably a pile of shit. The same way I think the Koch brothers are a pile of fucking shit. I think they're the same kinds of piles of shit. And I think that one's existence does not excuse the other, vice versa. But when it comes down to it, I don't think most people at the ground level are being affected by this directly, or even by proxy. I think that you've got small communities of people, and I looked into Yvette Falarka in particular, and she had weird fucking communities of people, like kids from Kansas, who are ending up in weird little fucking communes and going to protest rallies, and then going back to these communes and not let out, like weird fucking cult shit. Like, that's a real fucking thing. That's a real fucking conspiracy. Whether or not she's funded by Soros, that's something yet to be proven, right? But the fact that that exists is really fucked.
Well, there literally is a massive amount of evidence that Soros is funding this stuff. It's not that this stuff things that were like this didn't exist before he was funding them, because they did. I grew up in Seattle. I went to university in New York City, and I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for 8 years. And I have a massive amount of experience with anarchists all of. And yeah, I had a black supremacist fucking American government teacher at a community college in high school. Like, I was in high school. I went to take a community college class to get extra credit and shit, Running Start is what it's called. And this guy was a fucking black supremacist. He totally was. He wasn't really that shy about it too. It was kind of funny. So this stuff has been going on. Yes. And there's always going to be these like radicals, blah, 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 blah. But there's a reason that this stuff has become normalized. There's a reason that this stuff has become pop culture. Fucking just 10 years ago, the vast majority of people admitted that the word racist is defined by being a racist. Now they're like, no, it's a system.
It's proxy. It's proxy.
No, it's a system of whiteness that was created by white people.
And I saw the birth of this because I back in about 1999, 2000, I dated somebody for 3.5 years who was an English major who had a minor in feminism and talked to me about intersectionality, and ended up reading all the fucking books about it,
Yeah, no, this stuff has been around, but they took these little, sparks, and they poured fucking gasoline on them, and then they put it on center stage, and it's happening very deliberately, and the way that it is happening very deliberately can very largely be traced to both, Soros not by himself, but fucking with help from the DNC, certainly, yes, they are doing this. This happened. Like, the Democratic Party has been in bed with fucking MTV forever. For example, the Democrat, especially the Clintons, they got Clinton elected by putting fucking.
Oh, I remember the first election I could vote in.
Yeah,
was the second election, the second Clinton administration. That was pushed on me like fucking crazy by MTV.
Yeah, they're
I was a huge fan of MTV because of things like Liquid Television.
Yeah,
and 120 Minutes, which was an amazing show. If nobody remembers it, oh my god, I love 120 Minutes.
Yeah. Sunday nights. Yeah. So So these things are, and George Soros did say in 2012 that he believed that there was going to be a class war. 2012 was also the same year that propaganda was legalized on the American people. It became legal to use propaganda on the American people.
But you know what? But here's the thing: you got to ask yourself: how did it become legalized? It became legalized because of the second Bush administration. It became legalized because of Bush Jr. It did not become legalized because of some hyper liberals. It became legalized because of corporatists. And I think that the key thing here is that Soros is also a corporatist.
Well, no, he's a fucking creep that fucking wants to end the borders of the world. Like
Yes, but what motivation is behind that? I've tried to ask this to a couple of people lately that seem to be thinking about, like, they're thinking about Islam, they're thinking about the immigrant crisis in Europe, and they're thinking about all these fucking things. And you know what they don't fucking ask themselves? They criticize Islam, which, fine, that's great. Islam is a piece of shit. So is Christianity. So is every other fucking religion. But you know what they don't ask themselves? What would be the motivation behind the people, the power players in the fucking EU? What would be the motivation behind those people to actually allow this fucking crazy crisis to happen? Because if it really came down to it, they would actually... No, it's not gullibility.
Yeah,
they would actually be, if it came down to it, they would actually be able to put stopgaps in place to make it so that refugees would get across the borders, yet migrant workers could not. And you know why they're not doing it? It's the fucking corporate mandate of destabilizing the poor. You bring more poor people who are super fucking poor into countries where other poor people are competing for fucking jobs, and you destabilize wages for poor people to the point where poor people are going after other poor people for fucking work. Yeah, that is what George Soros is doing. That's what the Koch brothers are doing. That's what they're all doing.
Well, George Soros...
I mean, all they would have to do would be to punish the corporations that hire illegal fucking labor. And then,
Precisely.
That's all they have to do, and they don't do it.
Well, it's not just that. The thing is, Soros has made the majority of his living by capitalizing upon basically fallen governments. Ever since his youth, he was
what does that equate to, though? That it equates capitalizing on people's fucking misery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, hear me out. So he did that, starting in when he lived in Germany, and he was a part of the Nazi Party foreclosing properties from Jews, and that's what he knows. So yes, and then he has routinely, like, through media manipulation, bet against currencies on governments to help make sure that their currency would collapse, and then he could bet against it. Most notably in Great Britain, in I think 1992, when he bet against the pound or the fucking whatever. I think actually he bet against sterling silver. But
wait a second. Casey Dennison made a fucking awesome joke in the chat. It's Politipod. Yes, Politipod. This is Politipod. This is exactly the problem. Politipod is the problem.
Well, so the thing is, George Soros has, when he collapses, places, one of the things that he tries to get is from then on, he sort of has like a stronghold over the place, and he wants it to be a part of his big creepy global government because he has the Open Borders Foundation, and there's the weird hidden language that he was taught when he was young or fucking whatever, and it's this weird thing. Now he's getting old, and one of the things that he vowed to do apparently was to basically topple and destabilize America. And I honestly just think I don't think that he wanted to cause the fall of America. I think that he wanted to put a hardcore authoritarian into office, and then when there was going to be escalating riots and tensions, then he was hoping that Hillary Clinton would just, be a hardcore authoritarian and clamp down on everything.
But Hillary Clinton, when you look at her policy record, right? you're talking left, you're talking liberal, and you're equating George Soros with all this. And the place I'm trying to go here is that when you look at the voting record of Hillary Clinton, when you look at her promotion of NAFTA during her husband's administration, when you look at all of these different things, the thing that comes up more and more and more is that she's actually right of center.
Yeah.
And she's authoritarian.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what he wanted. He wanted an authoritarian in office who was willing to completely get rid of freedom of speech under the right circumstances. And
but it's a right-wing authoritarian. She's not a left-wing.
I don't really care. She's an authoritarian.
I care because I'm actually a fucking liberal.
I am too.
I'm actually liberal.
I'm a liberal. I consider myself a liberal. I'm probably, if I took the political compass test, I'd probably be some sort of like left-leaning libertarian.
Oh, but I retake that test once a year along with a couple of other tests.
Well, I don't like the test because I think that test is confining and it tries to get me to say things that I don't want to say with multiple
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. And actually, this is something Thorne and I have discussed quite a bit.
Yeah, the political compass is a little bit useless.
I hate it. I don't like it. So
it's terrible.
So, okay.
Everybody thinks that it's just left and right, but then you can have a group that has, like, you know, bits from the left and bits from the right, but they're still considered left, and it's just kind of a little bit of a mess.
Yeah, I don't really care if you want to call Hillary Clinton right or left. Like, that's not my point. It's my point is that she's a fucking creepy authoritarian, and I think that the only real motivation that she had was she wanted to be the fucking first female president. That's the only motivation I can deduct from her.
No,
vote for me because vagina.
No, that I actually had that argument with somebody earlier today. In real life, I had that argument with somebody in my house.
So
vote for me because of vagina.
But she's so inconsistent, and it doesn't seem like she had any other principles.
No, she did. She did have a big principle, and I think the principle
in the 90s she had healthcare.
No. I think it goes above and beyond that, and I think it's something that if you look at her record and stop thinking about the left or right paradigm, if you stop thinking about optics, you start thinking about geopolitical power plays, you'll see something. She made herself essential over her fucking political career since her husband went out of office, and before that when she was a Goldwater girl, all the way through when she was with the state legislature and she was a lawyer, all this stuff. She made herself essential. And I think that the problem was that after Libya, she made herself so essential that it pissed enough people off that were in like what people call like the shadow government or the dark government or whatever the fuck conspiracy shit you want to talk about.
Deep state is what they would call it.
The deep state, yeah. She made enough people pissed off that because she made herself so essential that they were like, no, you don't get to win. You don't get the cake that you're trying to bake. You don't get it. You don't get to have it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not completely outlandish to say, no. But I think that George Soros, being one of the biggest figures in the deep state, he didn't get that memo. He didn't know that the other deep state people did not want her to win. If that's possible, I mean, and that's really hard to say, but you know that does make sense. I honestly,
I have a problem with George Soros being the deep state guy, right? I think of George Soros more of as more of a what's the guy, Rupert Murdoch. I think of him as more of a Rupert Murdoch figure who's kind of a lone wolf and a fucking weirdo. Because if George Soros was actually a sort of weird deep state figure, that Jew fuck would not be supporting somebody who took money from Qatar and Saudi Arabia and the rest of those fuckers. And that's what the Clinton Foundation did. And that's what all the Republicans.
No. But this is the same Jew fuck that works with the Nazi Party in World War II, and and he wants to install a global government, and is more than likely has been one of the key contributions in not just funding but organizing ISIS, because he wants to destabilize. Like, he really does.
Why would you want to destabilize Western governments other than making it easier for money to funnel upward? Like, that's a complete question.
Well, no, he knows that he's going to die soon. He's fucking 85, and he made it a goal to, like, he wants to install some sort of, like, weird, like, he is this, like, globalist. Like, when Alex Jones talks about that, that's one of the few things that Alex Jones is largely right about when he talks about globalism, and it's very, very largely
I think Alex Jones is. I think Alex Jones is 40 to 60% correct about most things, and that's a scary thing.
Guys, I just want to read something from the chat. MC is saying Hillary was not right-wing. You are nuts in denying what Hillary's policies were. You seem to put NAFTA on a higher relevance than universal health care.
Hey, I'm in support of universal health care. I'm in support of single-payer universal health care. And I don't think that Hillary was in support of that because she was against Obamacare. She was in Obamacare, as much as it's a gift to fucking corporate fucking insurance companies, it's also healthcare that is keeping more people on healthcare than has ever existed previously in our country. And that's a big deal to me. I know people who would not be covered if it wasn't for fucking Obamacare. They would be probably dead or sick or whatever if it wasn't for Obamacare.
That would be suicidal.
Okay, well, regardless, George Soros does have this motive of trying to connect the world into what being one big government, and it mostly has ended up it's almost like, okay, I think that that's his motive, and then he's used corporatism as a way, as sort of like the workhorse to achieving that. He's like, okay, I can't just do this with governments. I have to get all of the CEOs to work together. And then that's where David Brock and the company Media Matters comes in. Do you know what that is?
I know what Media Matters. I know Media Matters.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so he's able to manipulate the corporatists by getting them to be on this like hub of narrative of like, this is what we're going to sort of do. And David Brock is a very smart person. And ultimately, I think George Soros thought that he was going to be able to, he had a plan, he had a timeline, and Hillary Clinton being put into office was the end goal. And now he's basically just throwing a tantrum because he didn't get his way. And I think he's senile. And I think that it's not that he has... Definitely. Yeah, and I think that that's what is going on. I don't think that he has a rational motive. I think that he's a senile, old, mad king at this point, is what I really think.
Yeah, I just think, honestly, he doesn't really give a fuck. He's going to be dead soon.
You're roboting a little bit, Thorn.
Oh, of course I am.
And delay. Yeah, there's an image delay too.
Yeah.
F5.
Did we lose her?
Oh shit! That shit just went stiff.
Is that better?
Yes.
Oh, that okay.
I came back into that just went stiff. That was a great place to come back. Right. That was a primo place to fucking come back to that.
Not a reference to my dick. All right.
Don't make me start making hyena references and getting this weird.
But I have a couple of questions for you here, Prince.
But weird is great.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions. I can't think that Angela Merkel, and I can't think that what's that fucking guy who was the British Prime Minister during Bush?
Fuck.
What is his name?
I'm forgetting his name. I'm drunk.
David No,
it's not Cameron. But he was the guy during the beginning of the Iraqi War. He totally colluded with Bush and Cheney and all this stuff to make the Iraq War happen.
Uh-huh.
These are people that I can't think that their disparate interests. Like, I can't think that someone who was a Soros representative suddenly walked up to them and they were suddenly converted into the Soros cult. I just think that there's too much chaos involved. And the agenda that I see is definitely something that is roughly, marginally globalist, maybe, but it isn't something that is coordinated. It's something that's more like a thought germ. It's more of a thought germ.
I think that the thing to keep in mind is that there's really probably only a few people who are, like, I would say David Brock is maybe one of the only people that is like an actual like loyal Soros, and Soros probably gives that guy a shit ton of money, and the guy probably enjoys it. Like, David Brock is a really, like, that's somebody I would love to see a documentary on, is David Brock. Because you know, have you here, I've shown people this so many times, but it's astounding. We don't know what David Brock actually looks like.
What?
Yeah, he hires actors to play him when he appears in obvious if you look through pictures.
If it wasn't too late, I might do that myself.
He's a Saddam Hussein.
No, I know about Barcelona. I know.
Yeah,
I've known about it for about 9 hours.
Holy shit.
So let's go through pictures of David Brock. Some of them will look the same for a while. Yeah, these ones sort of look the same. That was probably from the same press conference. And then that looks a little different.
That doesn't look. That looks like a guy in a wig. That looks like a woman in a wig. Actually.
Yeah. And then that looks different too.
Yeah.
And that kind of looks.
That's that same other woman. It's that same woman in a wig that when you went there. Yeah.
And then that's from the same one at the beginning. And then that kind of looks different. And then that looks quite different.
Way different. Yeah.
And then
go. All right. So flip back between the previous two. That one, and then they go to the previous one. I draw people for a living. That's the same person, actually. I draw people. That's the same person.
Yeah.
The person with the facial structure is the same. Yeah.
That hair is something else altogether.
That's outlandish.
The hair is ridiculous.
That one.
I think he might be flaunting the fact that he can grow some hair.
Or he can't, and those are implants, as well. It looks so different.
No, I think
good ones.
I think it's some natural shit. It's somebody who's never going to go bald.
Also, something I remember seeing earlier. Apparently,
that is not the same fucking person.
That is not the same person. No.
No.
So there is at least
at least two or three people.
Yeah, who are playing David Brock, and that's fucking weird, right?
One of them might be a woman.
And so it is really hard to say how do people get converted into the cult of Soros? How does that happen? I think that what happens is that somebody who does have a lot of money hires somebody, and they probably hire them under some sort of explicit contract. I've known a lot of people who work in media.
Well, I imagine they get hired under some sort of third-party contract where they're not even fucking aware.
Yeah, well, and also they get these very explicit weird orders. All the weird creepy shit that they did during the Clinton campaign, where they were paying people to incite violence at Trump rallies and shit. How do you?
Feels brutal.
Yeah, how do you actually get people to do that? You would think that it would be harder to get people to do such crazy things, but it's not, apparently. No.
I knew people when I was working in politics. I knew people who looked like the most mundane suburban fucking parochial, whatever the fuck kind of people, right? That would take money to become anything. It was fucking creepy. And these were all the people that worked in sales that got contracts with big New York fucking campaigns and shit to try to promote candidates and shit. These people were fucking frightening because they could become anything. Anything. Mm-hmm. They could become working class overnight.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. It's all just very weird. So it's Angela Merkel, I don't know what the fuck her deal is. She's doing a horrible job, and she's a monster. The way that she censors her citizens, and I don't fucking know. Does she just want to prove to the world that Germany is no longer racist by being a fucking tyrant?
I really don't, because
it really does feel like that. It's just no, look how good we're being. We're being the good people now. Please don't hate us anymore, because whenever somebody screeches even the tiniest bit of Nazi at them, they just immediately cave and do whatever the rest of Europe wants them to do.
Sort of.
But they're getting sick of it.
Here's the thing, though. When you go and look at Merkel's actual political policies beyond the immigrant crisis, when you look at that stuff, she is actually a conservative, and she actually runs on the conservative ticket in Germany. She's a Catholic, an out Catholic, who is part of a party whose core principles are being out religious Catholics in a country that was the first country to reject Catholicism during the Reformation.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take that into account.
Martin Luther was literally from Germany.
Yes. So she's in this country that out and out rejected Catholicism in the first place, in a Catholic party that dominates all this shit. But the thing that she has is she has ties to Pfizer. She has ties to international networking corporations that provide IPs to different countries within Europe. She is tied to power companies that provide energy to places like Romania and Greece and Italy. Whether or not she says one thing or the other about immigrants and about being the good person, she's tied to all of these corporations, and she's tied to religion. She is tied to conservatism. And this is why I come back to the place all the time of like, why would you let there be an incursion of people who conflict with the values of the country that has been, the country is plural, you know, whether it's France or Spain or the UK especially, these post-Enlightenment, these post-French Revolution values. Like, why would you let these people in that fucking conflict with that, and not just conflict with that, but they conflict with the bottom line of people who are at the bottom of your economic chain? Why would you let those people in? And the only thing I can come to is to destabilize their ability to make an income, a fair income, to make it so that poor people are competing against more poor people, so that rich people can exploit it more.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that, and then there's the idea of the fact that Western countries tend to not have a birth rate that is going to sustain the population, and so
Absolutely,
people, yeah,
absolutely.
and so people, and so there's the combination of like, okay, let's let in poor people, and because they will. I think that there's sort of like three factors. There's what you were saying, the poor people competing with the poor. That's definitely true. And then there is the just keeping the population up. Sorry, four factors. There's keeping the population up, and then there's also getting people to vote for for the right politicians, for politicians that will provide them social services, because that they're letting in immigrants who will vote for Democrats in our state, in our nation, or whatever fucking Angela Merkel's party is, and you know what I mean. And then finally there is the motive of, wait, what did I forget? Oh, well, wanting people to take out debt, wanting people to.
Fiat currency is a big deal. Fiat currency is a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially with the American dollar and all that. Like most people don't know this, but you know, just public service announcement: the Fed is actually a private organization. The people who make our money are a private organization. It's not actually a public fucking. It's not part of our government.
Yeah, I'm going to probably be investing in Bitcoin when I can. I'm going to try to learn this system, going in and out, doing that, because I've been looking into it and it's actually seeming promising. I didn't believe for a while.
I'm a little bit weirded out by anything that exists in the digital realm and not in any sort of physical thing. I don't know.
Yeah, me too. I'd like an old school. I think that we have to keep in mind,
just real quick on Bitcoin, we have to keep in mind that, you know, currency, like what we have, bills, dollars, you know, and you know, what are they called when it's like a big contract, like a treasury slip? What are those things called?
It's like a bid slip or something, yeah. Like
a bond note or something.
Bond note, yes.
Yeah, all those things are just arbitrary, imaginary currency. They're not gold. Mm-hmm. They're not anything. So Bitcoin is what's unique about Bitcoin is that each one cannot be reproduced. It is its own thing. It's its own the encoding, the encryption. It's its own unique little thing. And
but it requires a dependence on infrastructure the same way that any sort of fiat currency requires. So, like, basically, the only kind of currency I want to invest in doesn't exist. It's one that would one that would exist beyond if shit went down and there was no infrastructure left.
No,
that
like
doesn't
gold.
exist.
That's never going to exist.
Gold doesn't even exist. I think the only real currency base is human ingenuity.
Honestly, the whole thing with the gold standard, the problem with the gold standard lies in that there's so many people on the planet, there's not enough gold to back up all the currency.
Oh, no doubt.
At this point.
No doubt.
Nowhere near. Not in the entire fucking core.
Even when it comes to the environment, we're about 2 or 3 times past fucking carrying capacity.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you know, it's just the fucking reality. The fucking The reality of the market, that is the globe. Not even the market that we think of as like, the speculation market, not even Wall Street or whatever. It's the fact that we live on a planet that has finite resources and everybody wants to be a fucking millionaire. It's not going to happen.
Nope. And something has to give eventually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's giving. It's giving. I think actually part of what's fueling the migrant crisis, and this is something I talked about with my friend Brian, who's a Big Fat Brian channel that you should all go fucking look at. He makes cooking videos that are fucking amazing. Oh my God. Look at his white trash lasagna. It's fucking amazing. Oh my God. But the guys, he actually works in economics. And we did a live stream, which is private right now because I want to edit it down to a supercut because I'm a dipshit. I'm pretentious. But he works in economics, and we were talking about this. And one of the things that we came to consensus on from two entirely different angles is how equatorial countries are being fucked right now because of the environment. And that what is fueling a lot of the migrant crisis into Europe has to do with the fact that the only arable land from central to northern Africa is in Morocco, and it's being double fucked. It's being double banged in the fucking asshole by giant environmental cocks that are salinity and environmental change. Global warming is fucking hitting that area of the fucking world. So it's making it so that farming doesn't really fucking exist. And when you have no fucking agriculture in a part of a world, where are going to people go? They're going to go where fucking agriculture is because they're going to go where food is.
Yeah, and it's
cheaper food.
It's not helping that like there's people who are basically like fucking their own what little farmland they have because they'll go out and cut down all the freaking trees for charcoal, and then then the topsoil goes to fuck because it all blows away.
Because they refuse to let it rotate. They refuse to let it go fallow for a season or two,
or they just don't know how.
That's a factor too, and and it used to be that the World Health Organization and a couple of other organizations would actually govern that shit, but everything's been so compromised by the World Banking Organizations. You want to get into fucking conspiracies? Get into the loan crisis when it comes to Central Africa. Go look at fiat currency and how it affects Central Africa, and then come back to me about fucking conspiracies. Yeah. Oh my God.
Anybody watching the chat right now, if you really want to help Africa, the answer is not food drops. The answer is teaching people how to properly farm and not destroy what little arable land they have close to the equator. That's the real answer. Because sometimes it really is a lot of times just ignorance. They don't understand. It's like, but I need like cooking fuel because I don't actually have anywhere to cook except for an open fucking fire.
Well, and to tell them to not take loans from the West.
Oh
my God. Don't take loans from the West.
No, but it's like one thing is true. It's like the banks are fucking Africa in the ass.
Yep.
Just like with no lube.
Yep. Double and triple
teaming.
That is
absolutely true. Yeah.
You used up dish rag asshole. That's what we're looking at.
Yes. And a lot of people they're not educated enough to realize that they're being screwed.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and they're being screwed by the rich in their own countries too. And then like they have enough money, they can just fuck off to Europe. They don't give a shit.
Or Russia. Europe or Russia. And China's in the game too now, so that's another complication. That's the last like 6-7 years, China's been getting into the game, especially with resources, because there's this whole thing about rare earth metals, the things your cell phones and our computers and like whatever the hell else is made out of. That's another thing that's gonna fucking go up in flames in a couple of years too. Oh.
And China's also going to be butt fucking, or is already butt fucking.
Mr. Valentine. Hey babes. Okay, bye. right away. And we're bumming everyone out.
Like that's just completely like they're going to be completely screwing and are already screwing our real estate market because they're buying up a bunch of land, tearing down the shit that's on it, and building up stuff that's lower occupancy than what's there. That's way more expensive than anybody can fucking afford. So all of it is fucking empty.
It's called Chinese hot money.
What?
It's called Chinese hot money, and
yes, it is.
It's basically a gigantic scam. The Chinese corporations, if they are so the main thing that is fueling China's economy is property development, and they're not just doing it in China, but they're doing it all throughout the world.
The world.
It's
Miami's hit really hard.
Yeah, it started on West Coast North American towns like Vancouver, British Columbia was the place that they first hit really, really bad. But then
and it created heroin ghettos in Vancouver.
And then it got to San Francisco and Seattle, and then it's basically every fucking major metropolitan area in the United States, and then probably in all over Europe and stuff, and maybe even in random places that we would not expect. Like it's probably all over Asia. If you went to Thailand, there's probably these weird. It's all those weird condominiums that look like they're made out of aluminum and they all look the same.
Mm-hmm.
You can basically assume that it's mostly owned by Chinese money, and the idea is that as long as they're building, as long as the process is still underway, they can say that it's an investment, and that and if it's an investment, they don't have to pay taxes to the Chinese government because the Chinese government is like all like fucking communist and everything. So it's basically a way for them
but they're not they're not communists. They're like shitty fucking oligarchical capitalists. It's really
They
weird.
are, yeah.
It's hard to explain. I can't even get into like what they actually
They're a weird hybrid of
UK Skin in the chat brings up that China has zero environmental credentials too. And there's a really fucked up thing going on because they're shipping people into these big megacities that are 6 times the size of fucking New York City. It's fucking crazy, right? They're shipping these people in, and he's saying that there's involvement in the UK as well, and I don't fucking doubt it with office buildings and all this other sort of shit. But they're shipping people in from rural areas, and the people in rural areas are saying, I came here with the promise of jobs, I came here with the promise of housing, and there's no fucking running water.
Yeah. Like
There's nothing. Nothing's hooked up.
So with this Chinese,
and then they abandon the cities.
So with the Chinese hot money stuff, the thing is, I don't think people know for sure exactly how this is going because it's kind of a scam, and like obviously cities are still falling for it and letting them build these buildings. But I think that people are suspecting that they don't want to actually have people move in them. They're making them just just above being affordable for the average citizen in the nation. Because if the whole building of condos or luxury apartments became had tenants in them,
if it became viable, if it
became viable, they would have to prove that they were turning a profit, and then they would have to pay the taxes to the government. And so as long as it's mostly vacant, they never have to pay. And it's basically just a way for them to hide their money overseas. And that's why nobody is in these fucking buildings.
Yeah, there's entire condos in Miami that are less than 10 years old, some less than 5 years old, that have like 10% occupancy, and a viable building for a condo or an apartment is 80% or higher. So like there's these buildings that are mostly empty and that are, for whatever reason, never quite finished. Like there's always like 1 or 2 floors that are going through some kind of renovation. So they can always say,
that's the same thing here in the Twin Cities. Same thing here in the Twin Cities. Same exact thing. Same
starting to
exact
hit
thing.
Chicago now too, but with hotels.
No, we have condos. Oh, Big Fat Brian! Woo! Sorry, I love Big Fat Brian. Big Fat Brian and I actually had a end of the world discussion that had a lot to do with the economy. I brought him up earlier in the discussion. Your ears must have been burning because I was talking about you, Brian. I love you. But yeah, Brian and I talked about the end of the world a lot. We talked about the end of the economy a lot. And one of the things I brought up to Brian, and he and I agreed on from an entirely different angle, was that there is going to be an economic crash in the United States by 2019. It's probably summer of 2019 that actually is going to be speculation itself within our country is going to crash. It's going to be the big bubble. Mm-hmm. Oh, he said, thanks, babe. Ooh, I wish I knew Brian in person because I want to give him a hug.
I think that there's very, very likely going to be a multinational crash. And I think people are speculating that the Chinese economy is a big bubble and that based around all this weird crap that we're just talking about, that they're going to have a gigantic crash, and yeah, it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I think it's going to be global too. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. Economics is not my strong point.
All currency in the world is based off of the dollar, and that's going to affect everything. One of the things that China's been fighting with us over the past 15 years has been actually trying to get it to be where their currency is not based on the dollar. It is separate. They want to make their currency separate. They want to make the yuan separate from the U.S. currency, and it's never happened because Europe doesn't want to do it. Because if they do that, the EU is fucked basically, because they're caught in between it all. They're caught in between it all.
And we're fucked, and everybody's fucked because
yes,
we know China only looks out for China. And no one else.
Oh, China assassinates other people that they can't deal with.
Yeah, China only cares about China. That's one thing everybody can agree on, including China.
But they won't admit it.
Oh, I've had talks with Chinese people. They'll admit to your face.
Oh, Chinese people will, but the Chinese government won't. The Chinese government. They'll assassinate relatives of their ruling class, and then deny it.
True.
Which happened last summer in Singapore, by the way. I can grab Big Fat Brian's titties anytime. Oh my goodness!
Yay, man! But the quick thing about Barcelona, something that I saw was that apparently Wolf Blitzer has said that Barcelona is a copycat of Charlottesville, which is about the most American-centric shit I've ever heard. Like, really?
We ain't never heard of nothing called Nice. Ain't never been no something for France. What? No France. There ain't been no France. We ain't
never heard of nothing called Nice. There ain't no truck of peace. I can't rap.
Oh, this is terrible. Wolf Blitzer is such a fucking idiot.
Well, that's because the media is trash. We already went through this. They're allowed to lie to us now. So everything they say is like assumed to be a lie.
Wolf Blitzer is a particular type of he's like they found some guy who looks like a professor, but he's a bimbo. You know what I'm saying? Like he looks the part. Like he looks like he could probably teach a class in like civics or something, but he's a bimbo.
But you know that I forgot the name of that website that actually rates your professor. Like his professor rating would be like 2.
Yeah.
Like he's like professor, but he's like the really shitty professor that the only reason you took it is because that's the only time slot you had available for those classes. That's like, the only reason you're in his class.
I don't even remember this guy being in class or whatever. I don't even remember him showing up. There was like a TA. I don't know. I wanted to fuck the TA. Fuck it.
All he did was play videos, and I just kind of slipped through them.
I took some notes. Someone's sleeping.
Cog.
Someone is sleeping. Someone is snoring.
I think Cog Grinders passed the fuck out. He was saying he was tired. Cog!
Cog!
Okay. My streams are that boring that Cog Grinder fell asleep.
Yeah, it's just basically me and Prince arguing with each other.
Yeah.
I don't want to argue with you, Prince. This is the first time we've ever met. I don't want to argue with you. Wait,
I didn't really consider most of it arguing.
Okay, that's good.
You'll know when you're arguing with Prince.
I considered it hammering, is what I considered it.
Hey, that's my territory.
Oh damn!
Oh damn!
I just gotta say this: faggots aren't the only one with dicks.
It's my namesake, bitch.
Oh yeah, the liberal hammer. Yes.
If I can turn your attention to the flag behind liberal hammer. So
Brian likes to call it docking. Oh no! I got a docking story, but it's not that kind of stream.
Not until next week because fuck YouTube. I will be doing an adult stream because fuck YouTube.
I'm fine with
We
that.
can talk about
So,
fuck YouTube for what?
So you should tell us about Thorn. You should tell us about your Facebook. I know that was part of.
That was part of the impetus for this. Yes.
Yeah.
It was, and then there was a tangent, and the tangent lasted for an hour, and now Car Grinder is muted and sleeping. But yeah, so I got into a discussion actually with a Jewish friend of mine, and I don't remember exactly how it happened, but there was a friend of his that suddenly showed up and started white knighting for him, and like calling me a Nazi, and I'm just like, well, I was really calm with her for a while. I'm just like, well, why am I a Nazi? But I'm not a Nazi. I'm not a National Socialist, and I basically went through the paces, and I'm suddenly buried by like 3 Antifa people that came out of fucking nowhere.
Oh, hey, real quick, can Casey come on the stream?
Okay, yes, sure, yeah, you can send him a link.
I want to ask you a question here.
Yeah.
Because I was actually going to ask if I could send Brian a link too, but how late do you want to be up?
Another half an hour. Oh God, please don't do economics because I know nothing about it. I know very, very little about economics. It's not really my thing.
I'll have to do I'll have to do a stream with Brian later this week or something.
Yeah.
Or no, next week because I'm gonna be out of town over the weekend. Oh, I'm gonna be in your state.
I know. Everybody's in my state, and I can't go meet anybody because I'm drive. What was I talking? Oh, the Facebook thing.
Facebook.
So I suddenly get buried by like 3 different Antifa people who are just virtue signaling, and it was to the point where I could no longer keep up with how much they were typing. And I basically screenshotted all these death threats, and my favorite one was, I would like to rip your jaw off and beat you to death with it, you Nazi subhuman scumfuck. That
Who
was
was it that did that
favorite
shit in the
one.
Bible? Who was it that did that shit in the Bible? Was it
Cain?
Was it Samson? I think it was Samson.
No, Samson. Yeah.
It was Samson.
I want to rip your jaw off like Samson.
Yeah, Samson did that shit in the Bible.
That was my favorite one. And I'm to the point where I now have several people with their pictures attached to their profile basically saying that they want to commit genocide against white people, and I'm not entirely sure what to do with this information because I have their names and their faces. I know, and they thought I was white for the longest time, and I just let them believe that for a long time, and then I left them with a picture of me going like, with my husband sitting next to me.
Oh,
and then I erased my Facebook because I actually...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got really, really nervous because I have some extreme far left friends that I suspect are Antifa that are actually better at hiding the fact that they're Antifa. And these people have actually been to my house. Oh. So I'm scared that these people have now found each other. And yeah, I'm like double locking the door and shit tonight.
That's probably a smart idea.
Yeah, because I'm actually really, really nervous, and that was a really dumb thing for me to do.
No.
Wait, they know your address?
What? They might be able to figure out that people in my friends list know where I live.
Well, more than I think that the best thing to keep in mind is that at this point there are a legitimate, like, sizable population of legitimate white nationalists in most areas, and so and they almost never do shit to them. Especially, they usually, the only thing that they're ever going to do is show up to the actual rallies. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that they ever actually go after people's houses or anything in general. And if they did,
not yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Well, Prince, but you guys hear about the? I think this was in Vermont. Some poor guy got attacked by Antifa members. He got like stabbed and stuff because he basically did what I did when I was on Facebook and said, "Yeah, don't beat the shit out of each other in the streets like a bunch of gangs." And he got like stabbed. Like it was pretty bad. I saw the pictures that he posted. It was like, "Yeah, I just got fucking stabbed by a bunch of Antifa shitheads," and it was brutal.
Yeah, it's really getting scary.
And these guys are taking a playbook from Antifa in Europe, which has been around for over 30 years, where they've taken hostages in both Spain and in Italy, and they've been walking into people's houses just within the last 12 months and telling them that they need to fucking shut up on Facebook, otherwise they're going to come back and fucking beat them to death. Like, this is the kind of shit that's fucking going on over there.
Well,
and
yeah.
they're trying to take the same fucking playbook and bring it over here.
Well, dude, I don't know if you talked about this, but do you see that Antifa basically took down? I don't know where you live, but I'm just gonna assume near the Twin Cities.
I live in Frogtown, St. Paul, and I grew up in Minneapolis.
Oh Jesus, buddy.
So I live on probably the most diverse corner in the entire state.
I know, and I know where you. I know the area you're talking about, but
Yes.
did you see that over here in Minneapolis that Antifa showed up to our one of our courthouses?
Yeah, I do. I know they showed up right outside of the city center and all this stuff. Yeah,
and it's so weird that and like I'm the whole time I'm asking like where are the cops and stuff because I didn't see kind of anything like because you know how typically you'd see at the very least for safety concerns because I work with the police for and stuff. So I work for the parks, mostly for the park stuff, but I do interact with like the city police and stuff. And there was nothing. Like I have my I don't know if you have this, but I have an app on my phone for the police scanners.
No, I don't. Because here's the thing. I wake up every morning and when I turn on my internet and I go look at Twitter and everything, I somehow, because the fucking Big Brother or Skynet or whatever the fuck, I end up seeing reports about the people murdered in my neighborhood anyways.
Yeah.
Because we've had 5 deaths in the last 2 months in my neighborhood from gunshots, from gangbangers and all this shit. This is the kind of neighborhood I fucking live in. I know. And it's the kind of neighborhood I grew up in. Like it's not anything new to me.
100 people in the last month in Chicago.
Yeah, that's Chicago. That's a different monster. Oh my god.
We're especially fucked up this year, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're Detroit in the 80s.
Oh, hello, Cog. You're awake.
Oh.
Yeah. You're muted though.
I don't know. It just seems. I'm kind of worried though, just because I've had friends get attacked this past weekend, and it was pretty bad. Like it was. They're. I mean, fuck. They're even like not even to the right like me. Like they're liberals, and it just it's worrying to me that's.
Well, my friend who he was opening for another band. He came here last winter, and he's from here. He's from Minneapolis, right? He grew up in Minneapolis just like I did. He's almost a generation younger than me, but he's one of my closest friends. He lives in New York City now. He came back here for a show, opening up for another band, and someone else first got dragged aside and got stuck in a fucking snowbank for half an hour, and they were grilling him to prove that he wasn't the person they were looking for. Yeah. Right? And then when he finally showed up at the show, they found him and punched the shit out of him. They beat the shit out of him. And a security guard at the venue, and this is not an underground venue, this is a legit venue, was like, whatever.
What place was this?
This is at Triple Rock.
Oh, really?
Yes, Triple Rock, yeah.
Oh, fuck, that actually makes sense.
Triple Rock has really great shows, but man, this is fucked.
Go ahead, Liberal Harbor.
No, I was gonna say one thing that I find interesting because I know you mentioned even liberals, or at least I guess now classical liberals are honestly, I guess I've been pushed more to the. It's funny, I don't feel necessarily. I mean, I did go through an SJW phase, but I feel like I wasn't necessarily pushed more center. I feel like the left just went more left. I have not explained, but it's funny because especially after this whole fucking shit. There was a number of events that popped up in my area. Protest white nationalism, protest racism, support, all this and all that. And normally this is stuff that a year ago I would have been interested in attending. But it's also interesting because I think about it, and even if I did have a desire to attend one of these events, and I really haven't discussed this with a lot of my more left-leaning friends, I'm like, okay, so let's say I were to attend one of these events, right? And let's say hell were to break loose and there was violence and everything. And I may be there as a liberal, but I think about my husband and we look redneck as all fuck. I have this beard. I dress very redneck, and I was having this. Actually, I did have a discussion with one of my liberal friends about it the other night. He came over to my place and we were hanging out, and I was talking to him specifically. I haven't talked to any of the other ones. And I was like, so we look redneck as fuck. So if shit were to really hit the fan, question the leftists at that point, if they were to look at my husband and I, what would they see? They would see two redneck-looking motherfuckers, white men, and what do you think they would assume about us? That we are right-wing. Like me personally, I have many issues with Trump. I personally cannot stand Trump. I mean, I consider myself a liberal, but
I'm excited about the idea that they might get impeached.
Crazy. But you know what drives me nuts is that I honestly wouldn't attend these events now because I wouldn't even feel safe among the supposed liberals that I would be there standing beside, because if shit would have hit the fan, I would be a target myself. And my one friend's like, well, you could wear, because obviously I'm a gay man, you could wear pride colors. And I was like, so basically to be safe at this event, I have to advertise the fact that I like dick.
Yeah, but even that doesn't. But that won't even save you. You should see some of the fucking
gay white man. So that's a whole
Oh, dude, yeah. Well, that negates your gayness right there.
Yeah.
Skin color negates it. So you're screwed no matter what you do.
You're throwing out the stack. You're throwing out the stack now.
Oh, my Ken kicking ass is apparently now too light to have an opinion on matters of color.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, because BuzzFeed asked people who were light-skinned black people to give up their minority status.
Yeah, I'm a light-skinned Hispanic, so I might as well,
One of my friends posted that, and he's it's funny because he's actually half black himself, and but he looks very much like, it's funny because he looks very much white. He posted it, and he was having a fit, and my only comment on it was "Shut up, white boy," and he was. I was like, shut up, white boy, acknowledge your privilege. And he liked it.
I love telling people, shut up, white boy, or shut up, white girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I told Sir Wolfie to shut up earlier. Shut up, white man.
But I don't know. This kind of worries me because I like history a lot, and this kind of reminds me of, I don't know if anyone's familiar with like the Weimar Republic.
I am.
You are. Yeah. Does this not remind you of the bullshit that led to someone like Hitler coming up?
This is brown. So what I'm seeing here on both sides actually is brown shirt activity.
Oh yeah,
I'm seeing it on both sides.
But that's the crazy. But that's what it was going. That's the crazy thing now is because you're just on your edge of your seat and just waiting to see who's going to be the guy, who's going to be that dude that we are going to have to deal with. And I hope my hope is eventually people will have the. And I know this is a stupid hope, but I hope people would kind of realize both these sides suck ass, and we should be doing what we've always done and fight both of them.
There are people pushing for that, and this is a really weird thing. But like, it's the only people that I've been seeing pushing for this sort of like both sides are bad thing that have any sort of traction with mainstream media and any of this kind of stuff are people that are trying to reform the Democratic Party and push out corporatists from the Democratic Party. Yeah. They have this whole thing they're trying to do where they're trying to primary anyone who wants to get elected that will take money from the donor class. They're trying to push corporate money out of the Democratic Party. Right. Whether or not that works, I don't think it's personally going to work.
No.
But it's actually something that somebody's trying to do.
They're kind of like a more organized version of Occupy.
Yeah. I think the issue with that though is that does come with its own baggage. I mean, let's be honest. I think the group that I'm seeing that has reformed the most, and this look, I may be biased on this, but it is the Republicans.
No. You have fucking Trump as your party leader. Just no. You have Trump's in the fucking office. No.
Fuck no.
No. Well, see, here's what I come to with this.
Okay.
Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah.
Who I felt like he was a really great like piñata for a lot of people. He said late last year right before his scandal broke about, Hollywood, very young boys, and all this other fucking bullshit that people threw on him, which I'm not holding that against him. What I am holding against him, though, is this idea that socially conservative ideals have died out in Republican parlance is bullshit. And this is because I know religious people in my fucking state who are still socially conservative.
Well, I should say, okay, can I amend my statement then? Can I say that
Yes.
certain people to the right of center have kind of worked away, and like Rand Paul has become more.
How you look like you're maybe like 26 years old at
23,
the most.
23.
Okay, I was 3 years off. I was 3 years too mature.
Yeah.
Probably from the lighting.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to say to you. I was involved with politics for over 20 years. And looking at the pattern that I see, your generation of new conservatives don't understand what the previous 3 have done to our country. And this is something that I have encountered over and over and over again, is that you don't get what things like the moral majority and what things like Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan and Bush and then Bush 2 have done to our country.
Oh, like I should probably clarify what I am. I'm not a conservative. I lean to the right, but by no means do I call myself a conservative.
But here's to our argument earlier when you were listening and you were in the chat.
Yeah.
Something Thorne and I have come to a consensus on, at least, is the idea of left and right is kind of bullshit at this point.
Yeah.
And it actually has to do with authoritarian versus anti-authoritarian.
Well, okay,
more so.
I should say this then. I see a growth of sort of anti-authoritarianism kind of on both sides, and I'm seeing more of it. So I'll amend my statement further saying, and I see that coming not so much with my generation, but a slightly younger, and then maybe some people in my generation. Look, I have to say though, millennials are kind of a fucked generation. they kind of are, and I don't think anyone's going to deny that.
Yeah.
And I don't.
As an older millennial, pretty much. I'm 30, by the way.
Yeah.
I fall on that cusp myself as a millennial.
But I think
I'm an old Gen Xer.
I know, but I think the problem is, I think the problem is there was such potential for my generation, and there really was. Man, if it had been raised by a generation, if it hadn't been raised by fucking baby boomers, I think we would have turned out fine. I think we've been raised by.
I don't think it was even that. I think it was the fact that your generation exited college into an economy that had no jobs for it.
I think that's partially the reason. I also think that there's no great struggle to be had for my generation.
Oh, there was no great struggle for my generation either.
I know
there was none for mine either.
But you guys had something to fall back into. You guys developed things. We didn't. We didn't develop a new subculture for it. We didn't have a Kurt Cobain.
That's actually true. And this is something I've had long intellectual discussions with people about. But like the idea that after about 2000, 2001, all of it became regurgitation. Yeah. All pop culture became regurgitation. The invention went out the fucking window.
Well, yeah, well, dude, I mean, I
coupled with I kind of have to half agree with Casey. Like that coupled with the fact that we have no Kurt Cobain, and we had no battle to fight. So the social justice warriors made their own.
Okay,
sorry.
I will say this. I do want to inject something there. Is that it's interesting what you're discussing, because I feel like to an extent, at least the coming from the perspective, because I do very much still, despite how leftist and batshit crazy a large portion of it has become, the LGBT community. One of the things that it did view itself as having that battle to fight for quite some time. Sodomy laws weren't struck down until 2003. Marriage equality was recently. I marched for marriage equality on Washington, D.C. And I mean, aside from like issues with like religious freedom laws and stuff and maybe viewing them a certain way, we've won all the major battles. So now that the major battles have been won, the community is splintering. It's finding itself a bit, it's looking for things to fight
to justify their existence.
Well, the thing.
Go ahead, Casey.
Well, I think that's partially the reason, and I'll speak to kind of my experiences. The reason you're kind of seeing a rise in identitarian politics, especially, because I think most of us can agree at this point that there are that is an extreme issue in our country and most around the world. I think the rise of that is largely because we don't have a uniting thing for us anymore. And when I look at, I mean, it's not like during the early 2000s where we had, the war on terror. The war on terror, as big as a fuck up as it was, it did unite the country for a short period of time, like in a way I have never seen since.
Sure.
But we just don't have that anymore. We don't have a common thing to unite us. And
I don't feel that. Like on the other side of it, like I felt like it galvanized the country into polar opposites. Because I was part of a whole socio-political situation that watched Colin Powell stand in front of Congress, and I was like, that guy was full of shit.
Yeah.
I was immediately like, that dude is fucking lying. And it was proved out that he was lying. 10 years on, it was proved out that he was lying.
Yeah.
And I was part of a whole socioeconomic side of the argument that was like, that guy's lying, and then the other side, who was the leftovers of the neoconservative religious right that had come out of 1979's campaign against Carter to put Reagan in office. Like, I watched that last bookend of those people push us into a fucking war that has characterized our country until now, even.
Well, I think the issue though is I think this is just a generational thing. Like, I grew up under the neoliberal side, and I've seen huge problems. I mean, I think you can't deny that there are huge problems with that swing back that we've had over the past, I don't know, maybe decade.
I need you to define that. What do you mean by swing back?
Well, kind of like a sort of reaction to the Bush politic.
But it's kind of there. But so people, here's the thing I've observed on the ground, because I try to treat my in the street real life fucking experience as something that informs the experience I see on the internet, the experience I see in articles and in the news, the arguments I see on Twitter, or I don't do Facebook anymore, but like Instagram to a certain degree. But like the sort of split that I see in these lines, right?
Mm-hmm.
I try to look at those things and try to balance them against the life that I see in the street. And what I see is on the internet and in media, there's this huge contention between what is considered the academic left, which is seriously taken over academia, and they've taken over things like family courts and stuff like that. But also the right wing, the economic right wing, especially the right wing that makes sure that money flows up to the rich and gets further and further away from the poor, to where now we have, according to leaks from Deutsche Bank in late 2016, a near 50% poverty rate in our fucking country.
So I have a quick question. Sorry, I was gonna say I'm not sure. Am I the only country bumpkin in this chat?
I live in the middle of a war zone neighborhood.
Okay, so coming from the country and then running from the country because I felt it was far too, at least the time I was living there, far too conservative in regards to I would never feel comfortable there. Running from it though, there's always a saying where I come from. You can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. And
same goes for the hood.
I will say this election was very disheartening for me in one way, especially since exiting the SJW mindset. I was slowly starting to exit it when the campaigns were going, but watching these debates and watching Hillary and Trump, it was one of the first times that I looked at these two individuals. And I mean, yes, there was the identity politics, Hillary, I should vote for her because I'm gay, and I should hate Trump. But beyond that, I was also looking at it as a man who came from the country, as a man who was looking at his small hometown, which didn't recover from the last dip in the economy. It's still the factories left and the jobs never came back, right? And I looked at these two individuals, and for the first time looking at politics, I was like, neither of these fucks give a flying fuck about that small town America where I come from.
How old are you, Hammer? How old are you, Hammer?
I am actually 32.
Okay.
So this was like my my real first time really focusing on that. Because for the longest time I actually wasn't very political. It wasn't until I moved out of my small town that I actually got a little bit more political, which I didn't really move out until I was about 21.
I was involved in politics for being a teenager.
Yeah, I really wasn't. In my small town, in my family, we weren't really political. It wasn't until I moved out and into more of the environment in which I am now, and I got a little bit more interested in politics. So I was a late bloomer in that regards. So I kind of have that delay there. But this was the first time that I looked, and I was like, honestly, neither one of these individuals give a flying fuck about small town America. It's just a bunch. They're just mouthpieces, regardless of what they're saying. And so that was a very disheartening experience for me personally to look at that. And I mean I honestly don't know. I don't consider myself a leftist by any means. I used to. I don't consider myself a Democrat, that's for sure. I definitely don't consider myself a conservative, and personally I don't know of any conservative candidates that I would currently support. And as far as libertarian, I have a number of libertarian friends, but I feel like they're just running around and bumping into each other. I don't know.
They don't know what they want to be. That's the issue.
Exactly.
Libertarians know exactly what they want to be. They're utopianists.
Oh yeah, dude. Doesn't that? I don't know if you had interactions with like the Libertarian Party here in the state.
I have. Oh yeah. I used to go to Clubhouse Jaeger a lot. And if you think about that, there's a lot of libertarians that love to go there on Sundays.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of that thing that, I would be supportive of that party, and I like the concept. I have some overlap with them, I guess, on certain points, but it's just
me too.
They don't find a candidate that, one, could appeal to everyone, and two, doesn't play footsie with these shithead ideas like multinational stuff. They don't with the globalistic mindsets.
Well, also, the right and the left side of the Libertarian Party kind of doesn't get along at all.
No.
That's what I was gonna say. I would love to see a group of more than 10 libertarians have a discussion, not get into an argument. I have yet to see this personally.
I've seen it. I've seen it in person, and it's really horrifying.
They get into arguments like it's like they try and then it just explodes. It just breaks down. Yeah.
Well, you were talking something, Hammer, about like kind of your aha moment. For me, the aha moment was like after the first time I voted, which would have been the Obama. I voted for Obama last time.
Yep.
And I kind of retroactively, over the last 4 years, kind of look back at his first term, and I started noticing things that I just didn't really think helped at all in a lot of ways. I think they kind of added to problems.
Like what? Because I have some things I followed with that camp. That his first 4 years. I
think the explicit use of the Jerome program, that kind of bothered me. I didn't really like that.
Which followed upon the 2011 NDAA.
Yeah.
The National Defense Arms Allowance or whatever. Blah blah blah.
Yeah. Yeah. It just stuff like that, and the continuation of the NSA's spying program still fucking bothers me.
Started under Bush.
Oh no, dude!
And he ramped it up. There was no difference.
There's no difference between Barack Obama and George Bush, and I tell that to my friends, and like, oh, you're so full of shit. It's like, dude, look at what they did.
Here's the thing that the Republicans and the Democrats had up until Trump, and this is why Trump is a game changer, and he's a game changer in maybe a good way and also a bad way.
Yeah.
But up until Trump, the football issues were abortion and firearms, and that was pretty much it.
And the Supreme Court basically, the Supreme Court basically took care of both of them. They've done this repeatedly, so that's out of the way now. So I actually voted for Trump for two reasons. One, I like the chaos. I actually enjoy watching shit.
I want
you're one of the fuck you. I'm voting for him anyway, aren't you?
I'm in a tax bracket. I work stuff. And two, he's the kind of guy that can at least open the door for a good person to come in there. You can. I think if any, I don't even give a shit about parties, but I think if we collectively, and anybody on YouTube can do this, help shape kind of the public discourse to the point where we can kind of weed out the fucksticks on both sides and get down to people who are actually really good, you can have someone of any stripe come back and lead the country right.
That'll take about 15 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I will say this about Trump being elected. In no means was I thrilled by it. Definitely not. But I have seen. I mentioned earlier that I can't.
No, I was reading the chat. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that. I saw that. As I said earlier, I by no means came from a political family. Most of my family could give a flying shit about politics, but regardless, one way or another, Trump becoming elected made even the people that I know in my life who couldn't give a flying fuck about politics aware of it and actually engaging.
Yeah,
because for the first time,
he became a bogeyman.
I mean, yeah, but regardless, it was still it's allowed it's created more discussions. I mean, mind you, a lot of fights too, and a lot of division. But I've seen people become more politically aware than prior. In my own family, in my own circle. I know that's anecdotal, but for me personally, that is at least I try to see the silver lining of things. If it, as much as it exists today, and and that for me was one of the things is regardless of whether they hated Trump or were for Trump, I saw a number of people become more politically involved than in my personal life than ever before.
Well, because it became entertaining. Because, and I know people are going to disagree. It became entertaining again. That's the thing.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. Like, oh my God, yeah. I was obsessed. Oh, I was obsessed.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean,
everyone has ADD.
Well, because this, I think the issue is it's largely because I don't. If people were, I don't know if again, I don't know how many. Because you said you were a history guy, right?
Who, me? Yes.
Yeah.
So I love history. I've studied politics.
Yeah. Do you remember how back? I think this was anytime pre-Civil War. Politics was like the theater of the masses. They would come and just watch these people debate.
But only to a degree. It was a theater of the masses who could show up, because most people were still stuck in this paradigm where they were actually. I have a cat harassing me. Sorry, they were stuck in this time where this in between time where it was in between when you had the higher up ruling class who kept people like farmers and cobblers, people who were working class of the time from attending these things, and the existence of a middle class. The middle class didn't really exist yet. From the founding of the country, 1776, all the way till after the Civil War, there was no real middle class.
Yeah,
and that's a big thing to keep in mind. We, the people here on this fucking chat, our class of people didn't fucking exist.
Yeah. Well, but add the fact that we exist, and now add the fact that we are in a not just beyond the mass communication, we are the international communication era. We have the computers and stuff.
Yeah.
We can do a lot of stuff with that. Now,
just 13 years ago, I would have to pay to talk to you in a way that would make it unaffordable.
Yes, and now add that, because I think we actually took. I don't know what caused it, because I'm still trying to figure this out. What caused
Industrial Revolution, some level.
Well, what caused our mindset to shift?
Oh, it's convenience. It's convenience. Like if you go to other parts of the country where people have to actually catch their food, or no, other parts of the world. Sorry, certainly there are other parts of the country. If you go to like the Delta region of the Mississippi or the Ozarks, where people have to catch their food, they still have to wash their dishes in a stream, all that kind of fucking shit. They have to get their water from weird places, and they have to filter it themselves. But if you go to other parts of the world, like India, Bangladesh, if you go to parts of the Near East, if you go to parts of Asia, you will see people who have no fucking connection to what we're talking about. Because these people actually have to fucking do all this fucking manual labor through their whole fucking day, and then they fall asleep tired, not accomplishing anything that's extracurricular. They have no time to consider philosophy or politics or any of that shit.
I actually commented. I actually made a comment in the stream earlier. To that, why you and Prince are going back and forth. I'm like, some people may say this is by design, but in the small town America where I'm from, people are too busy trying to feed their families to focus on these issues. So you know, you were talking about the conspiracies and all that stuff. There's no time to focus on any of that. Both my parents were factory workers. Both my parents worked until their health wouldn't allow it. You know, my mom passed away in 2009. My dad passed away in 2016. Both worked until their health literally wouldn't let them do it anymore.
My mom, who lives in her house, she was born in a pig farm in northern Minnesota.
Yeah, and you know, my mom was bailing hay at 8 years old. This is like they worked too much to focus on politics, and still a large portion of my family is the same way. Most of my family are factory workers, and what we're discussing, what you and Prince were going back and forth on, means shit to them. You know,
exactly. Which is why I was trying to pull back from the conspiracy idea.
Yeah.
I was trying to.
I was saying, sorry, I had said Industrial Revolution because that was kind of the era that convenience started to happen. Things started to be made easier for, like, everyday things started to be made easier. I mean, the Industrial Revolution was basically when they started pushing to make everybody get indoor plumbing. That was kind of when all that was coming about. It was the
birth of sanitation and refrigeration in the modern era. There had not been sanitation on the level that we'd seen in the late 19th century since the Roman era.
Yeah, because like all of a sudden, like a refrigerator wasn't a luxury; it was just something you had. That was when that kind of started. At first, it started out as a luxury, and you have the ice delivered to your house, etc. And then, like by the time the 50s and 60s rolled around, it was just a regular staple of the house.
Yeah, it's funny. My mom would tell me stories of my mom would tell me stories of digging the hole in the ground so you could keep the meat cool. Keep the meat cool, like, out in the snow.
Okay.
My mom grew up mountain. Like my mom.
That's how curing. That's how curing in the old world works.
Yeah, I think the hillbillies.
You dig 3.5 feet down, and you wrap it. You wrap it in wax paper, and you make sure that it's sealed.
Yep, my mother did this. My mother did this when she was a child. So it's just
when my dad was growing up, he used to tell me the story about one. His family was still poor enough that they still had to get ice delivery. And two, that like, and you can still see these in buildings in Chicago, that he'd wake up in the morning and be cold as hell because the coal burning boiler was off. So you'd have to go down there and shovel it in. So you could actually get the building, get the house heated.
Yeah, UK Skin. That is probably why they are trying to get the control of the net. They're actually kind of freaked out that it's gotten out of hand. That's kind of what I asked in the chat earlier. Have you guys talked about the YouTube craziness lately? The weird stuff that's been going on this platform?
With demonetization and sequestering and all that?
Yeah, does that kind of worry anyone? Because I had Mr. Medicare, if anyone knows who he is, on my channel.
He's from our fine state as well.
I had him on, and I had him on the YouTube stream. I had him on my podcast, and it was really kind of an interesting talk. And we basically kind of said that because there are two things that are happening right now. People are saying that it's not an algorithm, that it's more of a blacklist, that they're starting to blacklist people in general, and I think they are. I don't know. Does anyone know Razor Fist?
Yeah. I don't agree with him most of the time, but I think he's actually one of the best rhetorical speakers, one of the best polemicists that I've come across.
He did a little experiment on his channel, and he basically proved the point. Now, where I think he is kind of mistaken is that this isn't a conservative or Republican thing. This is you don't toe the party line of YouTube. We're gonna put you away. I think it's beyond that, and I think
I thought that there could be a thing until 2 days ago. So just as a weird side thing here, I collect toys.
Yeah.
A very specific type of toy. I collect Transformers.
No, are you part of that community?
Oh, I thought it was going in a different direction.
No. I don't.
I thought it was gonna be My Little Pony. Come on.
I don't collect dildos, and I don't collect.
Oh no, I was thinking straight up dildo.
Yeah, I don't collect either of those things. No, I collect Transformers. They're on top of my. I have a few of them on my top of my giant rocket monitors, my KRKs.
Nice.
But I collect transformers. I collect third-party transformers in particular, which are stuff that isn't made officially, but it's like, people want to make what they want to make. And there are people on YouTube that review these things. They get a hold of rare items and they review them on YouTube. And they get a hold of knockoffs. They get a hold of all kinds of weird shit, and they review them. And I would have thought that it was all about ideology until 2 days ago. But when I started seeing people who just review toys getting their entire channels demonetized, I started thinking, this is about user-made content versus their YouTube TV and YouTube Red model. It's not about ideology anymore.
I think it's partially that. I think because it's the corporate mentality is push what you want to make. But the problem with something like YouTube doing that is that it's entirely a user-based content site.
But it's not. It's not. They've pushed past that. They pushed past that about a year and a half ago, and no one fucking realized it because everyone's watching Sargon of a fucking Cod. They stopped realizing that there's another part of YouTube that is hyper fucking normie, that is hyper basic bitch, that is top 40 culture. They stopped recognizing it, but it's still there. It's people with like 2 to fucking 5 million fucking viewers, and PewDiePie was the apex of that, and he got fucking taken down. And yeah, Sargon made a stink of it. A lot of other people made a stink about it, but you know what? People at the bottom didn't really pay attention, especially creators at the bottom. People who had sub counts that were below 100,000 were like, PewDiePie, it's a joke. What they didn't realize is that he was being pushed out of YouTube Red. He wasn't just being pushed out of the YouTube mainstream. He was being pushed out of YouTube Red.
Right.
So, do you think that this is partially a corporate thing combined with some ideological backing behind it? It's sort of a combination of the two. It's kind of what I'm seeing.
I think what YouTube wants to do is YouTube wants to be part of that mainstream pie that they don't realize. They don't. Yeah, it's sanitization. Exactly.
Because another group that's getting hit really hard by the demonetization is the horror YouTube fandom. There's another YouTuber that I liked by the name of Bbusta. You should definitely go sub to him, even though he's a huge YouTuber. But he does basically scary stories, like really high-end readings of scary stories. And he got hit almost all. I think all of his videos are demonetized now, and he has over 500 videos.
And he's not talking about politics.
No.
Well, I think Styx Hexenhammer basically said it best. I think this is kind of a time when this stuff like this happens. I think it's time for, I guess, anyone on the YouTube to kind of circle the wagons. And I think you should. I think you should start.
What does that mean? Explain circling the wagons, because as far as I can tell, anyone who doesn't have a sub count above like 250,000 can't circle any fucking wagons. What they can do is they can become demonetized and be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to say fuck it. They're going to be like Andy Worski, and they're going to say, I'm just going to become meaner. I'm just going to say more fucked up shit all fucking day about the people that I don't like.
Honestly, at this point, I'd say just start leaving. As soon as people start leaving, I don't know. Yeah, fuck it. At this point. Well, because that's the thing. But then that keeps going on here. Do we just want to keep moving from platform to platform to platform?
It has to happen. So what do you want to put a priority on? The fact that you're part of YouTube as an identity, and here you're going to do identity politics because YouTube, being a YouTuber, whether you like it or not, is a fucking identity at this point.
Yeah.
And lo, we shall wander in the wilderness until we find ourselves the Holy Land.
But I'm just,
or at least become upon Jericho and then fucking kill all of their women, children.
Bust them shit up.
See, I would like to interject real quick. I don't know if you guys have read VidMe's terms of service.
Yes.
They do have that thing in there it's kind of like. It's vague. It says hate speech.
It's not a free speech platform. It's not a free speech platform. There's no the only absolute free speech platform that I've seen out there is Minds, and Minds is a fucking gulag unto itself. It's a weird little ghetto where no one is able to fucking get any recognition unless they play the game perfectly. And then on top of that, someone like me, like my first video on YouTube is 29 minutes long and it's 1080p. And I'm not willing to compromise either of those things.
Right. And see,
so like I can't get a video on fucking Minds, and I also can't get a video on VidMe because I don't have enough followers.
Right.
Like,
and see, that was the whole thing. When people were like, "We need to go to VidMe, we need to go to VidMe," I'm like, "What are you doing? You're going into another gulag." This is, they literally have the same terms of service that we have on YouTube, and they can enforce those at will and at any political conjecture. The newest one that I'm seeing right now that I have looked into, I looked at their terms of service. Maybe I haven't looked into them quite as heavily as I needed to. BitChute is supposed to be 100% free speech, where they put users first. And I'd like to see how far that actually goes, and if they're willing to compromise at a political conjecture where they're, if somebody tries to force their hand. Like we've seen, as much of a cesspit, like Mr. Mediker mentioned, with the Daily Stormer and Hatreon, where they got they got their whole protection removed from DDoSing by their platform, their base, as it were. And when it's like, that's why my understanding why they're just trying flood to VidMe. No, don't flood to VidMe. You will face the same bullshit that you're facing on YouTube. If you try to, eventually if you try to monetize with VidMe, it's not going to work. Yeah. Eventually they'll have a political conjecture that's like, we got to force our hand. You're banned here. This video's gone. Your monetization's gone. At some point, if VidMe were to take off. Minds, and I totally agree on the Minds, you have to play the game perfectly. It's always been that way. From day one, it's like you have to know how to play the game to get big. You have to post, all this time, or you're having to fake the system with a refresher that gives you the points every hour, so that you can boost the posts that matter. Yep. And it's almost like every post has to matter. You're playing the SEO game.
Well, even there, like so I put out my first video late last month, and it's a video about Christopher Nolan's movies, and it traces what I consider to be a right-wing ideology because of its links actually to neoliberalist capitalism, and all this stuff. It traces back to Leo Strauss, and I made this 29-minute video tracing that through his movies to coincide with Dunkirk, right? To coincide with talking about Dunkirk. And I was like, I'm not getting any hate comments on my YouTube video. You know when I started getting hate comments? When I posted a link to fucking Minds.
Oh,
I got told by right wingers to kill myself, to hang myself, to go fucking jump in the river, like all kinds of shit.
Oh yeah.
This is such leftist propaganda.
Can we talk
about movies? About movies.
It's a movie. It's like, can we talk about the fact that the right that thinks that their shit doesn't stink right now?
Oh god, yeah.
That's starting to drive me fucking crazy.
It's driving me fucking crazy too.
Well, I think that I see that the whole like the shit doesn't stink. I see that from the left. I see that from the center. I see that from the right. You get a lot of people that they're like, oh, but that's just white centrist masturbation.
You're all cunts. Let's be honest. You're all a bunch of fucking cunts. That's what it is. Fuck you guys. I hate the moral grandstanding. That's what pisses me off. Okay, good on you. You're not a cocksucker. Go away now. You fuck off.
It was founded by Democrats. Good for you. You know history. Congratulations, Captain Obvious.
Over the past couple days, how many times I've seen that posted, I've just lost counts and I've stopped caring by this point.
Yeah, my response to that now is...
Which actually... did we lose you? Am I...
What?
Huh?
No, sorry, I thought I wasn't hearing anyone.
I don't know what's happening.
She put up some middle fingers.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
she was speaking with her hands.
It's interesting because one of One of the posts I've seen lately, especially with the whole statues being, taken down, monuments, all that stuff, the discussion is there was a post, well, are liberals going to take down, especially in reference to the LGBT community, are liberals going to take down Martin Luther King monuments because he didn't support, homosexuality, so on and so forth. And
what about
Whataboutism is cancer.
Yeah.
Well, I think my issue is that I just don't like this is where we're kind of at, because it's such a Philistinic kind of mentality. It kind of rubs me the wrong way.
What do you mean by Philistine? I mean, that's a loaded bit of language. What are you talking about?
Well,
I personally like the idea of civil disobedience. I do, but the issue is I still listen to punk rock music.
I think
punk rock music from when people were fighting against the religious right.
Yeah,
that's some of my favorite music.
I think my issue is, where do we draw the line though? Because I mean, I don't know. Have you guys seen that Vice fucking article where they say blow up Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, and then they rejiggered it to say let's tear down it or whatever. Yeah.
But
hey,
my issue
maybe
is,
we can have a.
But people can talk about it. I don't
fine.
agree with them. I think it's insane, and I'm like, what the fuck? What the fuck kind of agency do you feel like or what kind of mandate do you feel like you've been given by this Charlottesville shit that you can say take down fucking Mount Rushmore? Ugh.
Yeah, fuck that.
Well, exactly. And then you also have, did you guys see that they attacked some like antebellum peace fucking statue or some shit?
Somebody set a Lincoln statue on fire in Chicago up here. That fucking makes sense.
They graffitied the fucking Lincoln Memorial.
Just remember.
Yeah, that one statue that you're referencing, I think it was put up in 1924. I think that was issued, and it was meant to symbolize a peace between the North and the South. That's what it was, and that was defaced. Yeah, so monument to peace was defaced. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though.
They want to tear down. There's one in Hyde Park. It's the largest Confederate monument north of the Mason-Dixon line, and they want to tear that down. It's essentially a giant gravestone. It's marking a mass grave of Confederate soldiers. You're a bag of assholes.
People died. Just remember the fact that history happened. Christ.
Well, I think
history is the new punk.
I hate the fact that we're even talking about. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm too young to remember this, but was this ever a fucking issue? No. I mean, I really mean this.
Was what an issue specifically?
The concept, the statues, just in general.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It always has been. It always has been. It's been a problem with both the right and the left through the entirety of the 20th century, through the entirety of the life that I can fucking remember. There was put up in the middle of Minneapolis, which you've probably passed it. It's on 4th Street, right outside of one of the government buildings. Mm-hmm. There is a family where it is a daughter and a son with their two parents, and the son is on the shoulders of the dad, and the daughter's between the two parents. It's the shitty fucking sculpture. The same guy who does almost all the civic sculpture in the entirety of fucking.
I did see that.
Horrible.
I know which one you're talking about.
It was controversial when it was erected because the religious right did not want urban planning to represent something that was family values because it conflicted with their idea of what the city was.
What?
And this is about 1988-89, right before the Target Center got built.
Well, that's the most retarded thing ever.
This is the religious right. This is the religious right.
I fucking hate everyone. I want to die.
This is what they didn't want family values to be associated with the city.
Right.
Oh, I was on another Friday ahead on Facebook. I was talking about the Balbo monument that's here, which is basically to Balbo, who was a fucking a literal Italian fascist. And
yeah, it was contributed by Mussolini, right?
Yeah, it was gifted by Mussolini to the city of Chicago for the Century of Progress. And I was thinking, oh, hey, why don't we just move it to the Chicago History Museum in the Century of Progress exhibit? Yeah, I was told to go fuck myself.
I don't know. I mean,
what about the Seattle one? There's a
Lenin.
Yeah, there's a Lenin in Seattle.
Yeah.
I've seen the Lenin statue in person. It was up for sale for a long time. But yeah, I've seen the Lenin statue in person. I don't like Vladimir Lenin, but you know what? It's a beautiful statue. Absolutely. It should be remembered.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah, the
here's my-
Velma
but
one's
here-
beautiful too.
Well, here's my issue though. Like, you guys remember the one I don't remember what it was. It was somewhere in North Carolina. The one that got torn down and everyone was fucking whooping. Like the retards were kicking it and breaking their toes.
Yeah,
Somebody
it was a commemorative statue for the soldiers who had died on the Confederate side of the Civil War.
Like, if you guys are gonna,
how the fuck are you against that?
Because they're idiots, and you know what? Here it is. I don't know how everyone else was taught the Civil War, but from what I gathered, because I in high school I went to a private school. I got a scholarship to go to De La Salle.
De La Salle, oh my god! I used to walk past there and flirt with the girls on Nicollet Island.
I know, right?
Oh man,
yeah,
man.
they're different. They're a different breed there, man. Those nice guys.
Bosa is the hide your daughters type of person.
Oh, I am the hide your daughters motherfucker. You don't even fucking know.
They belong. But no,
I am a man whore par none.
But during this time,
bar none? Yes, bar
none. But when I was in middle school and stuff, the way we learned the Civil War history, like the basic shit you learn, is like, it's very much from a northern perspective, and they never only when I went to like private school do you get kind of a more. I don't mean to shit on the fucking public schools, but you do kind of get a more balanced viewpoint. And I've talked to Civil War historians. I've got friends that are Civil War historians, and they paint a really fucked up picture of what both sides were basically facing at that time. And you just like, Jesus, dude. Could you imagine being like a fucking 20-year-old having a fucking cannon, bullet this big in your fucking gut and dying on the battlefield alone?
Mm-hmm.
On either side.
Well, and the idea of the brother versus brother thing is something that cannot be exaggerated.
Right.
It was legit.
Thing.
I mean, fuck General Lee. That was what he was actually fucking facing. He was facing killing his own brothers.
He was facing killing his own brothers, and he also he went through a fucking soul search thing where at the beginning of the war, through his wife, he owned slaves, and he had previously participated in flogging escaped and recaptured slaves. And then before the war was over, by 1862, he had released all of his slaves and renounced slavery and said that he did not want to be a slave owner ever again.
Yeah, I mean,
he also didn't want any statues of himself, which is kind of ironic.
Yeah, kind of ironic.
I think the issue is people. I think we as Americans have kind of gotten into people in general have gotten into the mentality that there's always a supreme good guy and there's always a supreme bad guy. In any given
event films can be looked at to blame that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I think that the issue is. I remember my primary interest is in like the world wars. I remember who our allies were in World War II. I remember Stalin. I know what the guy was like, and I see people to this.
Well, you don't remember him.
I don't remember, but I do remember those history lessons.
Yes.
I did have family members that were in those gulags.
Mm-hmm.
I did have members that were in the Nazi concentration camps too. So I remember what both sides.
So you're both a Slav and a Jew, so you're not human.
Yes. Yes. Oy vey, they found out. Shut it down. Shut it down.
Oy vey ist mir.
But dude, like that's the thing though. Like people say, oh, like because I basically said don't beat people in the streets, and they call me a Nazi sympathizer. Do you know what the Nazis call me? They call me a dirty race mixer because most of the girls I date are like brown skin.
Oh Jesus, have you seen me?
Oh yeah. Oh dude.
I am the United Nations fucking.
Yeah, and look, it's stupid. Look, it's so fucking stupid, and both sides.
And I'm married to a black guy.
Yeah, dude.
So,
yeah,
oh no, go on. Sorry.
Well, dude, both sides are so fucking focused on race. They're so fucking focused on bullshit.
Well, they're focused on talismans. It's not even just race. They're focused on talismans. They're focused on symbols of what they think is right and wrong, and they want quick. There's 7 billion people on the planet. They need a fucking shorthand.
Well, humans in general do that, but yeah. Go ahead, Liberal.
No, I was just saying because something that was amusing me with this whole thing back and forth between the left and the right, especially where Antifa is concerned, right? I've watched a number of videos with Antifa, right? And they're calling when they're going against the Trump supporters and all this stuff, and they're calling them fascist, racist, sexist, homophobic. What's great is how many times I've heard Antifa refer to the people they're screaming at as faggots. And
Really?
yes.
For real?
Yeah, that's
Legitimately, yes. I've watched a number of videos. Okay, one of my friends today, right? He got into I have a friend who's a conservative. He's a YouTuber as well. His name is Very Valen. And I've done some live streams with him. He's very, very conservative. He's actually a Proud Boy.
Dear Lord.
Yes. But anyways, regardless, he gets
all the cereal.
I know. But regardless, so he's a Proud Boy, and he gets in an interaction with someone who's Antifa or Antifa supporting, and this Antifa member tells him, threatens to beat his fucking ass, to beat him with a bat, and then says, "Well, I better wear gloves," because he's first of all, this Antifa person calls him a traitor to his own kind because he's a gay man who supports Trump and conservative values. So that first takes place, right? And then this Antifa member says, "I should kick your ass. I should beat your ass with a bat, but I better wear gloves because I might catch AIDS." So this Antifa member called him a self-hating homosexual and then used a gay stereotype to attack him. I was like, wow.
The only real bloodborne disease you can get from punching.
The logic there. The mental gymnastics there.
No, it's okay for them to use them against you because they're more virtuous than you. They're better than you. You're a subhuman because you disagree with them. And they can go die in a fucking fire. Also, it's really weird. I don't know any white, straight, Proud Boys personally. I know a lesbian, a black dude, and a gay dude.
Huh. Interesting.
Well, here's the thing, though. I've got a friend on Twitter named Face Mara, or Despicable Mara now. She keeps changing your fucking title. Thanks, by the way, Mara. I always get confused by your goddamn Twitter handle. Stop changing it. But she gets all kinds of shit because she's black and a centrist. She's very much a liberal, and we get along, and she's cool and stuff. And she did the shit that she posted. The amount of hate she gets just for saying it. Fuck. Just these dumb fucking movements is beyond me. The hypocrisy on both sides pisses me off to no fucking end. Like, again, fuck all you guys. I hate you.
Well, thanks.
No, I do.
As long as it's equal opportunity hate, I'm all for it.
I'm this close to being a misanthrope, to be honest. I really just don't like most people at this point.
You're too young to be a misanthrope.
I'm already there.
Too young.
Death comes for us all. That's the only thing I'm looking forward to at this point. Fuck you all.
I'm sorry. At this point, all I think about is this one kid in high school who I felt was so just like. I look back at him and I'm like, he was just so ahead of his time as such a kid. We were actually, this was like the beginning of high school. I got into a debate with someone. I don't remember what it was about. It was about some social issue, and it brought up discrimination, stuff like that. And he goes, "Hey guys," because it was getting heated. He goes, "Hey guys. Guess what? I hate everyone equally." And it was like, I just think about him now, and I'm like, I admire his mindset now. I really do. It's just like
I have cathartic releases. Like one of my favorite songs in existence is by this band No Means No, who's an industrial punk, or not industrial, but like a hardcore punk band from Canada. They started in like 81, 79, something like that. But they have a song called "Kill Everyone Now," and it's 9 minutes of celebrating how horrible the human race is, with lyrics like, "I guess they'll be breastfeeding in space soon," and shit like that. It's fucking great.
Speaking of space, when do you guys think that when we finally do make it off this planet, it'll solve most of our problems? Like, people just fuck off into outer space. Just get the fuck out. Just like, fuck it, we're done. We're gonna move the fuck away from each other.
The logistics are really heavy, man. The logistics are really heavy on the science end.
Yeah.
So let's look at it like this. Let's say theoretically, like, the logistics aren't an issue, right? Say that we do get off this planet, a la Mass Effect, okay?
Oh dear Lord.
Let's look at it like this. I understand, like, barring like the last dumpster fire of a game that Mass Effect was. Say that we just get off this planet and we're able to travel. Have we already fucked up one planet enough? Why do we?
Oh no, we're to put it in Bill Hicks parlance. We are a virus with shoes.
Yes.
We will go
100%.
on. We will go on, and we will eat up all resources that we fucking come across, and we'll treat everything like.
I was gonna go with cancer, but
Oh,
there
you
were
know,
virus issues.
this isn't quite going to space, but I remember having a conversation. And to be honest, this is like this was even when I was still in the SJW mindset. So I think this was like still showing that I had these views developing. My one friend, who I have some friends, and some of them do believe in like the whole Bigfoot and all that stuff, right? And we were having discussion. We were having a serious discussion.
hi, Raph.
And I was like, let me tell you this much though.
Wrath is back.
If such creatures did exist, such as Bigfoot, I would just personally pray, hope beyond all hope that we never discover them, because we would destroy them.
No, I actually think that's why people believe in Bigfoot. I think it's because they want to believe in some sort of unknown purity that's resembling humanity, because they hate the idea of being a person so much that they're like, well, there has to be something out there that's good that looks like me, kind of.
No.
Well, I think
Well, it looks like some people more than others, but
we haven't.
Oh, damn! Are you making fun of me? Are you making fun of me?
There has to be something that we haven't discovered yet, because I refuse to believe that humans have fucked up everything this badly.
Yeah. This hope mechanism, and it's bullshit. As long as people hang on to that, they're not going to be able to deal with the fact that, yeah, you know what? Everybody poops. Everybody eats food. Everybody has embarrassing moments in their lives, and they have dark secrets, and they just have to go through their fucking day. And you know what else they have to do? They have to take care of their fucking shit.
Yeah, and you know, I think I don't know. It's weird to me that people have this mindset. I don't know. They hold on to it for so long. They kind of just think, there is something that's out there that's better than humanity. There really isn't. Brian in the chat, who Brian is one of my favorite people in the entire human race. He says, we literally look like how bacteria spreads on a petri dish from space. and what he means by that is, if you actually look at the way city centers and metropolitan centers across the globe look, and how the diaspora of the human population looks as it radiates from those loci, you will see a pattern that is similar to how a virus takes over the biology of a creature.
Yep.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Oh, Logical Lion said, we're just being natural. Cyanobacteria killed themselves off by converting the CO2 in the atmosphere to O2. They killed themselves off. Had they not, no mammals. So I'd like to update this by saying we are bacteria with feet.
Bacteria shoes.
Shoes.
Bacteria shoes.
Whatever.
It's true.
Maybe it's the single last shreds of, I guess, optimism. Again, like you were saying, I'm a little too young to be totally pessimistic, but I do see quality people now and again that I'm kind of happy.
I'm optimistic about is my absolute pessimism.
I interact with people on a semi-regular basis, at least once or twice a month, that I completely disagree with ideologically in person. I mean, face to face in the flesh. Like, I interact with people. House. Oh, absolutely. I go to con, like Thorne can testify. I post photos of myself going to shows constantly. I'm always out and fucking about partying. I can't stop. I'm gonna die a 70-year-old with a beer in my hand trying to flirt with some 20-year-old girl and watching a rock band. That's how I'm gonna die. That's how I hope to die.
Gonna see some cleavage and have a stroke.
Yeah. We'll be like, oh my God, she showed me your nips, and then it's gonna be done. And some guy who is like Zach Wilde is going to be in a Black Sabbath cover band still, and he's going to be playing NIB on his guitar with an oxygen tank on his face. He's going to be hooked up to an oxygen tank, and he's going to be shredding to NIB. And some 20-year-old girl is going to show me her tits because I'm a cute old man, and I'm going to be like, I'm done. I'm done. This is fine. I'm ready.
I've lived enough.
I embrace the worms. It's good.
Yeah.
No, I like people. I like encountering people that I don't agree with, because I love the idea of just having a conversation about whatever's happening in somebody's day. And I think that's insanely lost on the internet. Everything's boiled down to these ideological points where people are competing to like pwn each other and shit. It's weird to me because I'm an artist. I speak in visuals more than I speak literally. And
Same here. I'm a film student, so
I've been an illustrator for almost 3 decades.
yeah. I don't know. I just wish people would just chill out and just realize. Yeah.
I wish people would take more time with their ideas.
Yeah.
Way more time.
We're all destined for dirt. I mean, we all need to embrace the worms at some point.
Have some look.
Yeah, but why embrace them early?
Here's the thing. You should always.
Why unzip the dirt, pull the worm out, and start chugging worm?
Yeah.
Why deep throat the fucking worm is what I'm asking.
I think here's my philosophy. We're all gonna die someday. At least find some happiness while you're here and do some good. Don't leave your world as shitty as you can. And it doesn't mean you have to save anybody. Just don't raise fucked up kids, and you've done a great service to the world.
But that's even unpredictable. Like I turned out the way I am because of the way my mom raised me. My sister was raised by the same woman, and she turned out to be a materialistic, fucked up bitch. I love her. She's my sister. But she turned out to be this hyper-materialistic, fucked up bitch. She doesn't read books. She doesn't care about anything with the intellectual or anything like that. As soon as she grew tits, she stopped caring about her grades. Like, it's just the way she was. It's different people. You can't control your children. And the more you actually try to control them, just like you see with Gamergate and all these other sorts of things, the more you try to teach somebody they're supposed to behave a certain way, the more they're going to fucking rebel.
Yeah. Logical just said, I was raised by the same parents as my brother, and he's a fucking moron.
There you go. It's exactly the same fucking thing. Like, I love my sister, but I kind of think she's a jerk. I don't think she's an idiot. I think she's incredibly savvy. She sold a 6-inch pair of fucking stiletto heels to a permanently wheelchair-bound crippled lady.
Nice. That's actually quality salesmanship skills.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, I used to work for a shoe store.
I think that's technically evil.
No. I worked for a shoe store, and I was working with a woman that was wheelchair bound, and I was like showing her different sizes, and I kind of felt bad because she's like bound to wheelchair, and she said, "Don't feel bad for me. The upside of having no feeling from here down is that I can wear the shoes one size smaller, and it doesn't fucking matter."
Yeah, I don't have to walk in them either.
Yeah, and I don't have
they
to
last
walk in them.
longer.
I'm like, that is one way of looking at being in a wheelchair. I appreciate your outlook on life and your ability to laugh at this.
Oh, I doubt Logical Lion has loved my sister because she's also a hardcore lesbian.
No.
Oh goodness, is she a feminazi as well? By any chance?
No. She's a hyper materialist.
Oh.
She's apolitical to the extreme.
Lipstick lesbian, then.
Not even lipstick, like, because she goes out of her way to look weird. Like, she goes out of her way to be iconoclast. She's done makeup art. Like, she did a fucking makeup design for a billboard that was for a mainstream Broadway play that showed in New York City. They brought the actress here to do the film set, and she fucking did the makeup work for her. Like, she just doesn't fucking care. She just wants money, and she wants, like, whatever she gets. Like, she just doesn't fucking care.
For those who don't know, Logical Lion is my co-host for the Sunday stream, and he's been MIA due to his video card turning into a baked potato.
I got mangina. Oh no.
Old Greg.
I love old Greg.
God, no. That just no.
Jesus.
No.
That episode is really great, but I think the old Greg overshadows the living pita bread.
Yes.
In that episode is really or non-bread, the living non-bread. There's
Are
living
they still going on tours and stuff? Or are they officially like just done?
I don't know. I think they don't like each other. I think the two guys don't like each other.
Oh, jeez, that wouldn't surprise me. But no, I don't know. People, I don't know. I don't know what to do with. I can't relate with people my age anymore. That sucks.
That might be a different thing. Like, I had the same problem when I was your age. Like, not to be too much of an old man, but I had the same problem when I was your age. Like,
but it's kind of a struggle though, because I'm at that. Because when you're out there in like the social scene, and you attempt conversation, it's like kind of talking to a brick wall.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah.
Like I try to explain you know, just basic stuff. Like I try to explain why comic books are shit right now to like the average person, and they just go, "Oh, okay." Like they're very polite about it, but it's just like.
But the thing you start out is you have to think about is maybe you're talking about comic books they don't want to deal with, and this is from somebody who collects comic books their entire life.
Yeah.
There's this whole thing where like you just have to accept after a certain point, and it's the earlier you accept this, the better your life is going to be. Is that you're fucking weird.
Yeah.
And that no one's gonna fucking get you until you meet those people that get you.
Yep. I think I've started.
And you shouldn't expect it. You shouldn't even want it. You should just be like, look. And this is not me saying that like you shouldn't want happiness. This is me saying that you shouldn't want to expect other people to get you. You shouldn't put the responsibility of other people to supply your happiness and your fulfillment, your sense of belonging should more belong to your principles.
Yeah, dude, I actually really get you that. I've lost a lot of friends because I've done things that I've talked about things that I just don't feel comfortable with, and all my friends were like, "Oh no, that's totally correct." Like this whole it's okay to punch Nazis and shit. I lost a lot of friends for that because I said
I'm a freaking pacifist.
You shouldn't. I'm not a pacifist, but I don't think you should just go out there and be a fucking gang. You shouldn't.
I think violence should be the last resort.
Okay, so I wanna ask your guys' opinion on this. So because I've gotten into discussions with a lot of my friends, including my friends that think they push the punch a Nazi thing, and I'm like, okay. So the problem with that is, how are you defining a Nazi? Because the problem is like how the left is defining a Nazi. I've been called a white supremacist, but you've
been called a white supremacist.
Yes, I have. I've legitimately been called. Actually, I posted a video about it on my YouTube. They said they called me a conservative white supremacist, patriarchal something. Anyway, so they went on that whole rant. But anyway, so when we had that discussion, I'm like, well, the problem is, how do you define a Nazi? Because it was also talking about how they were defending the suppression of hate speech, right? And then they posted this, the paradox of tolerance. So the paradox of tolerance.
I saw this.
Yeah, I know, but this friend posted this. Mind you, I'm like half tired, and I'm like, oh god, I'll deal with this later. But the paradox of tolerance, first described by Karl Popper in 1945, is a decision theory paradox. The paradox states that if a society is tolerant without limit, their ability to be tolerant will eventually.
Anybody who doesn't know, is Karl Popper was an economic philosopher. He wasn't just a regular philosopher.
So their ability to be tolerant will eventually be seized or destroyed by the intolerant. Popper came to the seemingly paradoxical conclusion that in order to maintain a tolerant society, the society must be intolerant of intolerance. And my question, although my friend, one of the things I even brought up in response to that was, okay, well, how then who's going to define intolerance?
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to define what is intolerance, and to what extent? So he posted the dictionary definition of intolerance: unwillingness to accept views, beliefs, or behaviors that differ from one's own. Now, what was interesting, and then part of that also was a struggle against religious intolerance, so on and so forth. So I then was just quoting unwillingness to accept views, beliefs, or behavior that differs from one's own. Yeah, because there's no danger of applying that too broadly. So yeah, so it's gotten to this point where I try to have discussions with my friends about the left, both sides, but especially my leftist friends, because I have primarily leftist friends, where the punch a Nazi, freedom of hate speech is not, freedom of speech, all that shit. And I don't know what to do anymore, to be honest with some of them. I really don't. Because then I get this kind of stuff.
I have the same problem. Well, I've lost most of my actually IRL friends, except for like a few. But like I have one guy. I have one guy who started out right wing, but now he hates everything, and he's like a gun car guy. And then I have another friend who's a photographer for nightclubs, and his politics go wherever the pussy is. So
I
like,
respect that man.
I like that guy.
you know, he used to be you'll know this, Casey. He used to be a regular photographer for the Skyway Lounge.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Hmm.
Just he just show up for events, get free drinks, and
Nice.
take photos of people dancing.
It's a good gig. I've worked stuff like that before.
Yeah, it's a good gig if you've got a camera or you're a pretty boy.
He's one of those guys.
He's a camera guy. He's not the pretty boy.
Oh, I was about to say, man.
No, he's not a pretty boy. He's a camera guy.
Buy camera, get pussy.
Yep, exactly. And I actually bought him his camera, but that's beyond the point. But like I've lost pretty much all of my friends who actually have any sort of hard ideology about anything. I've lost all of them. The IRL friends, the meat space friends. They're all gone.
Yeah. I have 3 left. One has been my best friend since the 3rd grade, and she is not going anywhere because she's an actual good friend. She lives in Florida. My other friend lives in Kentucky. He's been my friend for a pretty good time. He is a redneck Jew.
Nice.
And I love him. And my 3rd is a conservative kind of dude who is a really big fan of the Roman Empire and is not Marius.
Well,
I call him my meat space Marius.
I have meat space friends who live in other states. Like I have a best friend that lives in Portland, Oregon, and I have a best friend that lives in New York City and Brooklyn. But they don't come here often, and I don't get to go see them.
Yeah.
So
I would love to. You know what I'd love to do, just as kind of a nice little project. I'd love to take my camera to all the Facebook friends I have, all the ones that I made over the past 4 odd years, and kind of just to see what these people are like in real life.
There's a guy who made a movie like that.
Really?
Yeah, like 4 years ago, he made a movie that was him visiting all of the friends he met on Facebook.
Yeah, I mean,
across the country.
and
it turned out really bad. Evidently, I don't know. I didn't watch it though.
Yeah, I mean, it'd just be really interesting because you find people. That's why I kind of like the internet, and it's also one of the downsides of the internet too. People become less social in general, but it also connects people that are, they're like-minded. They at least can tolerate each other. They can have good conversations. It's stimulating, but also stunting in real life. It's sort of the paradox of the internet.
The biggest connections I've made, and this is pretty much since I've gotten on back on social media because I took a few years off. I got back onto Instagram and then I got back onto Twitter. And since I've gotten back onto those 2 things, I have made some crazy friends that I would love to meet in real life. People that we actively disagree, Like in a private stream earlier tonight, I got into a fight with Magog. Like me and Magog have talked a lot. I did t-shirt designs for him. We disagree on so much fucking shit. And we were fucking at each other's throats about stuff. And then Failure came back into the stream after going, it was, after stream stuff, after the Cult of Cactus stuff. Came back in and was like, oh my God, is mommy and daddy fighting? And then Magog was like, no. I love him. We love each other. This is us just talking about shit we're passionate about, and that made me feel so fucking good. Just to hear that,
Yeah, because I think I don't know. Maybe it's just because I don't know. I'm not that articulate, so I can't really say much about this.
I have that problem too.
It's people just need to chill the fuck out and not take everything so personal.
After the statue thing, I was literally typing on Twitter, both of you sit the fuck down.
Kids, you're both cancer. You're both cancer.
The Poland flag. Oh God, the banner.
I loved it.
That was so great. I found 2 photos I mentioned of them.
Just sign my petition, guys.
Huh?
Well, kind of, because Poland's gone really hardcore religious outside of the anti-communism and the anti-Nazi. They've also gone hyper-Catholic again.
Yeah.
Also just hyper-Catholic.
Hey, dude.
I think Poland's getting nervous because last time the communists and the Nazis fought, Poland disappeared.
Well, Poland has been contentious ground for about 1,200 years.
Yeah.
They've got sea access and land access. It's really nice. France wants a piece of it. Germany wants a piece of it. Russia wants a piece of it. Yeah.
Hold.
Stop fighting! They're like, stop fighting! Everybody, stop fighting! We don't want to disappear again.
Stop treating us like a fucking punching bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor
But yeah,
Poland.
they haven't gotten as uber religious as Russia, but they have gotten pretty uber religious.
Mhm.
Well, I
Russia
think-
went right the fuck off the deep end.
Oh, way off the deep end.
Mm.
Just nosedive.
I dated
Poland's
a woman
more
who
like a
was
slow
different.
slide.
Well, I think
Holy
But
shit.
this has been a while, hasn't it? Like Russia's kind of started to slide off the deep end for like the last 30 or 40 years.
oh, dude, the last
Well,
what,
since
200?
Russia's slid off the deep end religiously since the fall of the Berlin Wall
Yeah.
because it became before that it was against the law to be religious.
Yeah.
And I know this from dating someone who was actually in Soviet Russia when she grew up, and then lived in it after the fall of the Berlin Wall and like saw the transition. Though to be fair, mostly she talked about their pseudo-Soviet Nutella more than she talked about politics.
Oh, God.
Nutella? What?
Dude,
Yes.
Nutella is fucking garbage as it is. I mean,
East
can you
East
imagine?
Bloc Nutella. East Bloc Nutella.
That's like
So
fucking
basically,
spackle.
chocolate sadness.
Yes. Yes.
Oh.
In fact, what you could say anything and then hyphen it to sadness, and that is everything that I got shown from Soviet era Russia by this woman. She showed me a lot of Soviet era Russian culture. Whatever hyphen sadness.
No food this week, hyphen sadness.
Oh no, she had food because her the people she lived with her grandparents because her mother fucked off to somewhere else. But her grandfather was a popular photographer, and they had a large estate in Uzbekistan.
Ugh.
And right up until the Berlin Wall fell, they had this giant real estate thing with a giant house and all this stuff that was afforded them because he was a nationalist photographer. But as soon as that shit fucking collapsed, she was running all over the fucking country with her mom.
Yeah.
Now, after the fall of the wall, didn't Uzbekistan kind of become a black hole shit?
Yes. Oh yes. It became
Uzbekistan is a black hole of shit.
It is now. It is now a black hole.
Most of the former Eastern Bloc got fucking tanked.
Yeah.
Well,
gone.
Uzbekistan is technically part of Asia, but yes.
Fucking Uzbekistan still practices bride kidnapping.
Yep.
So wildly
Yes.
And women trading and like all this other. They are a weird combination between Mongolian culture and Islamic Bedouin culture.
Oh, that's
it's
fantastic.
really fucking crazy.
List of places that actually need feminism.
What about places like Georgia that they're still trying to actively take over so that they have access to the so Russia has access to the southern Asian peninsula.
Mm-hmm. So they have access to some manner of ocean, so they're not entirely landlocked. Yes, it's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I personally want to wrap up because I have to use the laptop.
I got
forever.
Yeah, I gotta get up for work.
It's 2 a.m.
Yes.
Yeah, 3 a.m. here.
This was fantastic. I very much enjoyed this.
Was it?
Yes, I enjoyed it. I have a
enjoyed
loud
it
mouth.
overall.
I have lots of words that I can blurt out, and then people will listen to me, and I'll be embarrassed later on. But whatever, fuck it.
Is Prince there still to say goodbye to everyone? I don't know. I thought he disappeared.
He dead. He gone.
Oh, please don't have two people fall asleep in my stream.
He gone. No,
He's muted. He might have just done something else.
he might have passed out drunkenly.
See you guys later.
Okay. Oh, bye, Prince.
If y'all wouldn't have such like ASMR voices, I wouldn't drone off. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna grab another.
ASMR voices. I don't even know what you're talking about.
That was great. That was great.
No.
There's 9 people viewing. Go chill your channel.
Hey, Casey, get at me on Twitter. Maybe we can meet up in real life since we live in the same area.
Yes.
And talk about bullshit, whatever.
Chill channels.
Go see
Grinder,
a
go.
fucking movie or some shit.
Yeah.
Gaming politics nonsense. You can go to my channel, sub. It's a cesspit.
Nice.
I don't know. Liberal Hammer, go.
You can find me as well, the Liberal Hammer on YouTube. I'm trying to get more active with my channel. I've only been putting up maybe one video a week so far, but I'm trying to work it up. Come check me out. If you like my shit, great.
Once a week is more than me. Otha.
You can find me as Otha Zachariah Edvard Losa on YouTube, or O_draws on Twitter, or just Otha Losa on Instagram. I am not as prolific on YouTube as even the Liberal Hammer is, since I've only put out one video, and I don't think I'm going to make one this month because I'm too busy with other shit.
Okay. Casey.
Hi. Well, you guys can find me on Twitter at Casey Dennison, so just my name. And I usually I have my own channel, but I'm now the official co-host of the Politipod with my friend Sam, and we do that every so often. Usually every Saturday at 2:30. We're having one this Saturday, and I would love to invite any of you guys on there. We're going to talk about this topic, and also we're just going to bullshit about movies.
So you're not actually associated with the guy who's called Politipod?
Oh, which one?
There's a guy called Politipod.
Dick.
There's a guy who goes. There's a channel. It's just Politipod on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's a couple. Like no, that guy fucking sucks. He's a dick.
He really does. He's kind of. They actually kicked him over me on the cunt stream. So yes.
Wow. Yeah, him and Opal. Oh my god.
Oh, Opal, shut up.
Oh,
Squeaky toy.
No, my buddy Sam is that's not the same guy. There's two different guys that have that stupid moniker, but we chose that long before that fuckhead did it.
Okay. Sweet.
So yeah, that's us. So that's all I got. Bye everyone.
Cool. Bye. I'm Thorn Inside, or just Thorn. I am at Lady of Miserable on Twitter. I mean, you already know all this. All the links are on my freaking channel that you're watching right now. But I make art reviews of horrifying feminist art, and I'm going to start playing games too. Look for something in September from me regarding a certain game about animal cannibalism. And in the chat right now is Logical Lion, and you should definitely sub to him as well. He's my co-host for our Sunday show, To Be Determined. This week we're having Conscious Caracal and your boy Pat.
I like him. Oh, I love both of those guys.
Yeah, I love your boy. I love both of them. Yeah, we had a great talk last week. It's going to be about race relations, South Africa versus the United States. So I wanted a well-rounded group.
You know, if you want someone else to talk about South Africa or like Zimbabwe, another guy from Africa is Adam and his Apple.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, that dude is a dude's from I can't remember if it's Africa, like South Africa, or if it's Zimbabwe. But that guy also, he would know about the whole like race relations as it pertains to being a white guy in Africa. And his whole family was from was it like what the hell was it called before?
Swaziland?
No, it started with an R.
Oh.
No.
Rwanda? No.
We could be naming it. Let's not do this geography game.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna.
They changed the name of the country after like politics changed and shit. But he's got a lot of stuff to say. Get it. He's got a lot of really good stuff to say. So if you have like a continuation, I'm sure he'd like to join in sometime.
Also, Logical, we are never talking about veganism because I don't feel like getting a fucking headache.
I'm gonna continue to eat pig till I die.
Congo. Democratic Republic of Rhodesia, Rhodesia or Congo?
Yes. Rhodesia.
Oh,
yay! Awesome. We've named the African nation shit show. Alrighty, that's about it. Good night, folks.
All right, peace out. Have a good one.
I'm never talking about veganism again.
Oh shit! Hey, by the way, if anyone's got Netflix, they just released The Defenders, so I'm gonna watch.